OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Good morning to you. Friday morning, OTB AM. Adrian with you this morning. Delighted to have you along with us. Beautiful Friday morning as well it is. This morning, Eoin Sheahan alongside me. And this morning, Stephen Kelly. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
How's it going?
Very good. Delighted to be here.
You've reacclimatised yourself to Ireland.
I am, yeah. I have been here for about 6 weeks now, getting used to everything, and then I have to go back to the UK again.
Top up the accent.
No, that's it. Get back, yeah, and then everybody won't be able to understand me as soon as I'm back into the UK.
You never really, like your accent, it's pretty...
Yeah, I've never lost it. Like I said, I'm actually 20 years in England now this January.
Mad, isn't it?
Yes, and I've been there longer than I was in Ireland, but I never lose. I don't think my family would ever let me come home with English accent saying English words because, it wouldn't have went down too well. Good stuff.
We've plenty to chat to you about. Busy weekend of football, lots of Irish interest, some of the bigger teams in action as well, so we've plenty of that to get into over the next little while. One of the main stories that's been catching our eye over the last 24 hours thereabouts with the news that James Haskell has decided to sign up for MMA, sign up with Bellator. He's going to make his debut, it seems like, next year. They're going to have a press conference next week. And big old beefcake, James Haskell, is jumping in the MMA cage, and it kind of caught our attention a little bit. We were kind of thinking afterwards then about like who would be the Irish sports stars, if we were to think about it, that would actually properly be able to cut it in MMA.
Irish sports stars.
You've gone further afield, have you?
I've gone further afield.
Right. The Irish sports stars was the specific parameter.
Was not mentioned once.
Apart from with the initially. So I've gone Irish on. That's,
okay.
So I'm going to kick things off. We have gone with a GA category, so I'm assuming at least in that we're sort of both on the same page.
Yes, yeah.
Mostly,
yeah. There's no kind of homegrown New York player that I've gone for in my GA category, no.
Right, well, let's kick things off then with rugby. I'm going to give my pick and then you're going to give your pick.
Okay.
I'm going with the former Ireland and Munster scrum half Peter Stringer as my top pick for MMA.
Why?
Well, I mean, the picture there tells its own story. He's he likes to work out, does Peter Stringer. He's obviously got the bulk, he's got the physique. He's, pushing 40 and he's still managing to hold on to that. Sharp movement, definitely, nipping in around the ruck and the scrums and all that sort of stuff. Scrappy. Would have had to have a bit of nastiness about him as well, right? Like, he's always spoken about being a smaller guy coming through and copping a lot of flack, and there had to have been a nasty edge there. One of the few players in the world to bring down John Lomu. So there's got to be a bit of technique there as well that he could, I think, a bit of a crossover to MMA. Craft. The dancing thing, obviously, was like another thing that he did dance with the Stars last year.
What does that have to do with anything?
Well, it shows that he's got boxing, that bit of sort of, you're going to need that bit of movement on. Like, that's,
Okay, go on.
And like the pinpoint accuracy, so when it comes to it, he's able to pick off the shot when needs be. That's why I'm nominating as my first nomination, Peter Stringer.
It's a good shout. I'm not sure about picking him up on his shape. You're a very shallow man, Adrian. If that's why I'm looking about skill and potential to cause some serious damage,
you're
legal
your own pick.
or illegally, and that is why I've gone for Tana Umaga, because he really just cannot beat what he's done. He might be better in a tag team, I dare say. He might need a friend or two to help turn guys on their head, but he will injure men left, right, and centre. He will be a terrifying proposition going into the UFC octagon, or the Bellator octagon, of course, which is where James Haskell is going in. I think Tana Umaga is the guy. You come up against him, it doesn't matter how many abs he's got. All that matters is he has got the technique to turn you upside down, literally. Yeah,
if it was to become tag team, I'd probably think that you might have something. I don't know, behind it all, he kind of seems like too nice of a guy.
Well, is Peter Stringer... Like you said, he's got a nasty... Like you're saying on the pitch. On the pitch, I think Tana Umaga had a bit of an edge to him, Adrian. Just a bit of an edge.
It's true. Right, we move on to football.
Yeah.
My top pick, so I was thinking about this a bit earlier, and then when Stephen came in, we gave him the parameters, an Irish sports person, from soccer, rugby and GA, and Stephen said John Walters, and that was exactly who I had gone for. There really is only one man for the job when it comes to soccer. It's like... you'd have huge concerns about his mobility, right? Like, I think that if you get into a cage with somebody who is fairly mobile, that he might struggle a bit. Now, he'd obviously be able to run around a bit, but I would just imagine him bludgeoning someone to within an inch of submission.
No holds bars, just pinning them down and going for it until they were tapped out, basically. Yeah, that's Johnny all over.
I'd say Johnny Walters, if he saw you tapping out, he wouldn't stop. if he disliked you
going. He would, he'd never give up with the thing.
No.
John Walters wouldn't... It would have to be, the ambulance would have to come in. There's no chance he's given up. He's taken that fight all the way. So that's why I'm giving him a bit of a shout. And also I think that he would use, let's call it, all available tactics.
Oh yeah.
To be honest with you, I think that's a fantastic shout. I would actually put my money on Jonathan Walters to beat Tanu Maga in the cage. For football, I was thinking to myself, what are the different techniques that you need for mixed martial arts? So I've gone with somebody who can turn you upside down. But really, one of the most insane things is the kick. Then the way you can kick a guy in the head.
Yeah.
Who is the best candidate in the history of football to kick somebody in, maybe not the head, but in the torso? It's got to be Eric Cantona. Yeah. So without question, Eric Cantona is my second pick as mixed martial artist. Of course, Nigel de Jong might have come into things, but if you're picking between, kind of high jump kicking an opposition player in the chest or high jump kicking some civilian, who granted he had a bit of a mouth on him, in the chest, you're probably going to pick the guy who kicks the civilian in the chest because he's probably got more of an edge to him. So for that reason, I want Eric Cantona in my corner.
Good shout. I can't imagine him having a particularly long career. I think he'd come in, he'd blitz the divisions, and he'd be gone again.
Yeah, it wouldn't be there'd be no longevity to it for him.
No.
He'd be out of there. Right, that's the football looked after. So for GA, this is the one I struggled with the most, I have to say.
I did not struggle with this one bit.
Lots of options on this one. But who I went for in the end was the former Kerry legend, Paul Galvin.
Not a bad shout.
I think that that sort of the way he would prowl around the pitch, like that sort of Paul Scholes-esque the movement, the prowling control. I think that I also think he wouldn't get hit much, by the way. I think that he'd be very sharp, sort of been able to duck and dive and get his way out of there. A bit of guile about him, plenty of power as well. I think Paul Galvin would do pretty well in MMA. It
was an absolute no-brainer for me. I've seen his grappling skills at close quarters. He is an absolutely phenomenal grappler. Once he gets you into that hole, Stephen, you can't get out of it, really. It's a terrifying place to be. Congratulations, Cormac Costello. I think he'd be a magnificent mixed martial artist. Look at that. That is beautiful. Managed to put him down, I think, for a good 10, 15, 20 seconds at that point. There we go. Get in deeper, get into the windpipe, make sure Bruno Bioglic taps out. Good man, Cormac. That is just beautiful.
So good at that picture. There's still no one else in the frame as it's going on, so no one else is coming.
And the ball is about 40 metres away as well.
He's also now looking at the play just to make sure that he's not getting caught out.
Yeah, magnificent.
This is
terrific.
This is Eoin already starting the fight and talk ahead of the 5 in a row game next week, Stephen, just in case you're,
The Dubs will beat you in any sport. So that's how good they are.
I'd honourable mention as well for Kieran Donaghy, who I thought might actually be
pretty good,
big unit. And Kieran Kilkenny was a bit of a left field one that I thought that actually had a bit of physique about him. Plenty of
all the Dubs really
Galvin style. So that's where we're going, and we are interested as well. If you out there have got your thoughts on who might be. I mean, it's Irish. Whatever, if you want to extend it a little bit, like going in, sort of play around with the rules and do whatever the hell it is you want. Feel free to do that as well. Get your thoughts into us. Plenty of them. Coming in as well. Some of them, by the looks of things, we'll be able to bring you at some point between now and 9:30. We're going to bring you the newspapers very shortly, but here's a flavour of what's coming up over the next couple of hours. We're going to tell you what's on the back pages of the newspapers in just a few moments' time. We're going to preview the Premier League weekend in the company of Stephen Kelly very shortly. Phil Thompson as well is going to give us the Liverpool view just at about 8:20 or thereabouts. After that, Andy Dunne joins us in studio to look ahead to England versus Ireland this weekend, and plenty of points of interest to get into Andy about in terms of that Irish team and out half and how they match up against this English 15, a strong English 15 this weekend. James Haskell will be another talking point that we're coming to bring in your direction just about 9 o'clock, and then the sports news at about 9:15. So that's that, and we do want to hear from you over the next while, so keep your comments coming into us and bring those to you. But right now it's time for the papers.
The Off the Ball Open tees off in Abu Dhabi this November 17th to 23rd. Join us with return flights from Dublin, 5 nights in a 4-star hotel, golf on 2 championship courses, gala awards dinner, Peter Lorre golf clinic, and a live Off the Ball roadshow, all for just €1,750. Kevin Kilban, Kieran Donaghy and Connor Sketches will be there too. The Off the Ball Open, Abu Dhabi, this November. Limited number of early bird places remain, so book now at CassidyTravel.ie. Deposit of €250 required. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, 20 to 8 on this Friday morning. Good morning to you, and delighted to have you with us. Here's what's happening in the newspapers this morning. We're going to kick things off with the Irish Daily Mail, who say it's up for grabs. Joe tells Byrne and Carty to stake a claim. This is the most obvious point of the weekend. I would think that it's a straight shootout between Ross Byrne and Jack Carty for that Irish number 10 shirt ahead of the game against England at the weekend. It's Byrne, obviously, who gets the nod. That's Rory Keane there. Sprinter Coleman facing ban and Olympic KO is an exclusive by Matt Lawton here with the news that that there's been 3 missed tests and a possible strike, obviously, at that by Christian Coleman, who is the next coming Usain Bolt, by all accounts, 23-year-old American sprinter, and he's had recorded 3 whereabouts failures, according to Matt Lawton in the Daily Mail today, in the past 12 months. So anti-doping rules state that top athletes must provide authorities with details of where it's going to be every day. He's saying that last night there were also rumours that other American sprinters could have an issue with the whereabouts system. It's understood there are high-level talks ongoing between all the parties that you might expect, and he's clearly going to appeal. It seems on one of the whereabouts issues he may have a bit of a case, and even a bit of a case you would assume is enough to get him off. Yeah,
this is not a good look for Christian Coleman. We spoke about him on the show a couple of weeks ago when he was glorifying Justin Gatlin in the newspapers at the recent Diamond League meeting. I think it was on in Birmingham, wasn't it? So he's not painting himself in great colours over the last couple of weeks. He's somebody who kind of burst onto the scene a couple of years ago. He's been, as you say, the next superstar. He's already seen as the next superstar. I think he's the fastest man in the world right now if you're looking at 2019 times, and he would be in with a good shout at taking gold in the World Championships. We didn't actually know a whole pile about him in terms of his stance on anti-doping, but once you come out and supported Justin Gatlin, it's pretty clear what your stance is.
It says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah, but obviously it's only a whereabouts failure at this point. So it'll be interesting to see what I presume it's USADA cracking down on this.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
There are 3 or 4. So the talks are between the World Anti-Doping Agency, obviously, United States Anti-Doping, and the IAAF's Athletics Integrity Unit about the case with Coleman's legal team disputing at least one of the alleged whereabouts violations. So we'll see over the next few days. The other thing on the back page of the Mail, Rory Sizzles in Atlanta. This is the odd and new ending to the Tour Championship. He's moved to within a stroke of the lead. Listen to him talk during the week, not delighted about the unusual system whereby you carry a score into the week as opposed to accumulate when you get there. Odd. We'll see how it goes. It might probably just be a one-off tester. That's the Daily Mail this morning. Stephen, what have you got?
I have the Sun Sport here. First part is the big one. That's AOK, boys, which is referring to Celtic's win last night, 2-0 against AOK Stockholm. Good result for them after going out of the Champions League so badly. So back on track in European football, and hopefully they can progress. The top one here is it's Taylor versus Coleman 2. That's referring to the game tonight, which is Everton versus Aston Villa versus Everton. So the first time they would have played against us since Taylor's broke Coleman's leg that time, which was, I don't think it was an intent tackle, but it was a tough tackle, and I know Taylor as well, and he's a tough player. So I don't think Seamus would have held any angst against him. He went into it, it was horrible to see, and thankfully Seamus is back up on his feet as well and playing well. And then in the corner here is Linfield beat Carbery 3-2, which was again another good result for them last night. Gives them a great opportunity to go forward in the competition.
Yeah, unreal results for them last night. The Irish Times this morning leads with the rugby. Twickenham, an imposing testing ground for Byrne and Carty. They're both going to play, according to Joe Schmidt, tomorrow afternoon. And Byrne will be tactically important for Ireland. It's Liam Tolan's analysis column this morning. And then the final piece there on the front page of the sports section is Schmidt keenly aware of the danger of suspensions. So the Ireland coach is wary of the implications of crackdown on high or dangerous tackles.
The Irish Mirror this morning leads with the Celtic result last night, beating AIK 2-0. Paradise regained. It's Gavin McCafferty here. Boys on a difficult week on a European high. That's the photograph there as well. Bit of an odd one here. Vinny, I'm not boss in games. This is Vincent Kompany, obviously, who took over as manager at Anderlecht after leaving Manchester City at the end of the season. They've had a rough start to the season. In fact, the worst start in 21 years. And now he's saying that once the game kicks off, he's no longer the manager. This is ridiculous.
How can you take over as player manager and not be making decisions if you're playing? It's crazy.
It feels almost like with the worst start to the season, he's like, well, listen, I'm only kind of half the manager, right? Like when the game starts, it's somebody else's game.
Is that not literally what a manager's supposed to do? Is be able to change a game tactically when it's going on and be able to assess and change things, bring players, make a judgment call. That's what they're paid for.
This is a good news story, and I'll tell you why. It's because Samir Nasri will have the armband stripped of him because Vincent Kompany now becomes captain. So he's not player manager anymore. He is the captain of the team, and Samir Nasri is no longer captain of Anderlecht. I thought it was kind of a strange signing at the time, but I'm sure he won't be too happy with that. It's a straight 21 years. The last time they've had as bad a start as this. it's just a complete cop-out, really, to say, okay, you're not going to be the manager for match days. The next step is clearly for him to be not manager at all.
Would it be in a situation, can they sack him as manager and he'd obviously still be there as a player, because they can't sack him as a player unless he does something against his contract.
Yeah.
So can he be sacked as a manager and then still be their player? Would that not
Probably. I mean, it'd get kind of awkward.
Yeah, well, would it be awkward, wouldn't it?
Simon Davis, I feel sorry for, head coach, who essentially takes over on match days and is saying Vincent will be the leader on the field. He will be in charge of the team, but it's important that he's merely one of the players during the match. No, it's not. He's a club manager. It's like, it's not. There's not a whole pile of recent examples of it happening. But if you're going to be the manager, like even from an optics point of view, to the rest of the team, you're like, oh, hey, I'm not one of you. It's like, that's ridiculous.
Like, there will be a deep dive done on this. Like, of course, there's been somebody who has been sold as a player who managed to become manager of that team. But this will surely be the first person who's got sacked by that club as a manager who was on to play for that club.
And stays playing him for the next 4 years. You surely would think it'd have to work out something.
Yeah.
He's not there, because like, from his point of view, that would look terrible that he's still playing for them.
Shocking.
The best quiz question ever.
I have the Independent here, and the main one again is Celtic on their 2-0 win last night in the Europa League. And the side here, it's Kenny sticking with Dublin despite Galway speculation, which is Matty Kelly has confirmed that he will remain as the Dublin hurling manager for 2020, ending speculation that he could be the next Galway boss. And then in the bottom here is Carbery has all the time in the world to prove himself, which is Joe Schmidt saying that he will probably bring the versatile Munster star to Japan even if he can't prove his fitness.
The Racing Post this morning leads with Queen in the north, York hailed sensational Enable, and then the back page goes with a football preview. Silva Service, Toffees to deliver table-topping performance. Aston Villa against Everton. Like, one of my childhood memories is Saturday night, Gary Lineker, twice a year. It's the oldest fixture in football, Aston Villa against Everton, and I've missed that for the last couple of years, so back.
Most played league games in English football is 203, I think they played against each other at the top play.
It's a stat.
There you go.
The fact that you're saying when you were a kid, Gary Lineker was on TV.
I'm still a kid, always young.
My main takeaway there. The Herald, meanwhile, is already building up the hype. It says, don't believe the hype, but we're already looking ahead to the game that's 7 or 8 days away, 9 days away now almost, for the Kerry-Dublin final. This is Frank Roach writing about a couple of times where it's gone slightly wrong. Kerry, of course, the Kerry 1982 5 in a row year T-shirt that's up here on this poor kid. I mean, it's a bit of a collector's item, I suppose, the other way to look at that. He's reflecting on that, and he's reflecting on Kilkenny in 2010 as well. The 10,000 fans that turned up to see a training session to send their boys off in search of the 5 in a row that ultimately came a cropper. That's Frank Roach's thoughts in the Herald this morning.
I have the Telegraph Sport here, and there's an article by Alistair Tweedle just discussing VAR and how fans love a good old moan. So regardless of the rule changes and how VAR, there's always going to be an opinion and something that's going to bring controversy, and he thinks VAR probably can't really win. And in the bottom corner here I have Total Rugby, your 8-page guide to the pull-out, and it's going to be just talking about the games the weekend and the build-up to the World Cup.
Jofra Archer is on the front and the back of the London Times. There he's in the back, 6 for 45. Archer bowls out Australia with remarkable show of maturity in just his second test. US investors close in on Sunderland. Meanwhile, Sunderland are close to being taken over by American investors. So the League One club hope to conclude a deal within a fortnight with Glenn Furman, John Phelan and Robert Platek, principals of MSD Capital, which is a private investment firm that manages the capital of Michael Dell and his family. So I think that's pretty good news for Sunderland. And a US sprinter faces ban, which we've mentioned. 100-metre superstar Christian Coleman has missed drug tests, and Stuart Barnes has got a column in the Times as well this morning. Eddie Jones's tinkering in midfield has echoes of 2015. I was kind of like, when I looked at the Jones, or at the Ford Farrell Axis at 10-12, I was like, this is good news for Ireland.
Really?
Yeah.
Didn't they go on like a 78 winning run? True, but it doesn't. 78 games together.
I'm kind of in the prism of 2019 and what happened at the Aviva Stadium.
I'm all for that aspect of it. The Sunderland news is almost like rubbing it in the faces of Newcastle fans even more. Like, we want to get a new owner. We just go and get new owners
straight away, quickly, and not someone clinging on to the club. And Newcastle is just a club that's always going to be in turmoil while Ashley's charged, because they just can't get it right, and no matter what he does is never the right
thing. Yeah. All right, moving on to the Irish Daily Star this morning. Kieran Donaghy's column there. Win so sweet for Lennon. Some other stuff going on there. Mesut Ozil in line for his Arsenal return against Liverpool this weekend. And Rom Rant, Lukaku hits out United fans who used him as a scapegoat. He's saying that everything that was wrong it was my fault, essentially. This is a fairly lengthy interview that Romelu Lukaku, some of which I watched last night, is given to a football podcast. There was lots of interesting stuff in it. He was saying about, I put my hand up, I don't think I was the only one playing bad. A lot of people were. The fans have to find a culprit. If they want to put the blame on me, F it. I know what I've been through. And this is just soccer. I'm playing, but at one point I'll do something else. For me, it was just shit.
Yeah, I saw some of that as well, and he was talking about his relationship with Mourinho and how that they, even though they butt heads, he had such respect for him as a man as well. So it was an interesting interview to come out straight away after the season just kicking off. It's a lot of harsh words from him.
I'll kill his arse was the expression that he used in relation to Mourinho. This was obviously the butting of heads and the constant, because they've been in each other's company for, I'd say, maybe longer than both of them would have liked at various points. And it was I think around the time where he was at Chelsea and he got sent off on loan to West Brom and he wasn't happy about it. But like, even though he was saying all that stuff, and even though like Lukaku has lots of reasons to really despise Mourinho, maybe it is borderline that. I have to say I did have some respect for him, because he was still saying, actually I really like Mourinho, he's actually a good guy, he's like a great manager. Like, after everything he's been through, he should be one of the people who's going, this guy's an asshole, he doesn't know what he's doing.
He's probably afraid he could get a job at a club he's coming up to, so you can't, I think retrospectively speaking, when you've retired you can go on record and slaughter people to a degree, but when you're still playing you have to kind of keep a degree of he could be managing me at some point too. I'm still playing at big teams and Mourinho's out of a job, so you could be in with them in a few months if they don't do well.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
The Guardian this morning goes to Joffa Archer as well. Deadly Archer is the headline. Pace ace takes 6 wickets as Australia crumble. Incredible stuff from him yesterday. Bury D-Day, meanwhile, EFL warns club could be expelled over debts. And Lucky 7, Jones puts faith in Curry and Underhill for Ireland clash. He's calling his two flankers the kamikaze kids.
You watched a little bit of the cricket?
I've watched a little bit of it, yeah. It's hard not to, if you're in the UK, especially when the Ashes are on, because they go crazy for it, and just the laughing there, the puns write themselves with that guy. This is brilliant. He
come out afterwards and he was saying, like, it wasn't the perfect performance, even though he pulled them apart, but he's like, listen, there's still plenty, make a good GA player, he's like, still plenty of room for improvement. He's
made it slightly more exciting because the pace, like you see the first few balls he put and the concussions and everything, not that that's to be something to be glorified, but just the shock and awe of it when you're watching it for the first time, it's been impressive.
Yeah, all right, that is the look at the papers for you on this Friday morning. Plenty going on there, and plenty that we'll come back to as well over the course of this morning. Do keep your comments coming in. We've had lots of reaction on the what are the Irish/international sports stars that you think might make it in MMA. Anthony Graney on Twitter says, how is Zlatan, who was a black belt in Taekwondo, not been picked for the football?
Yeah, it's a good chat.
Zlatan's a great chat.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you put yourself in the position of who would I least like to get into a cage with?
You would not want to fight. Like, he is an absolute man mouse. When you're standing beside him, you're going, this guy, and the fact that he can actually move around as well, it's frightening.
Yeah, like with Cantona, you might get in, and there might be a scenario where he's like, oh, listen, let's just sit down and have a chat.
Yeah.
Whereas Latin is, you're going to get your head taken off. Somebody says Liam McHale from AO.
Good shout. I suppose he's got the crossover anyway. The versatility is key, being able to apply your skills to other sports, so he's already got that in the locker.
I said to you as well about, I'd love to, if Haskell's in, I'd love to throw Paul O'Connell in against him. I'm sure he'd rip the head off him.
He's another bludgeon merchant, isn't he?
Would you do it, Stephen?
I'm not sure if it's really my forte. I'm sure I could stick up for myself, but I wouldn't think, like, you're talking about James Haskell and people like that, probably going in with the heavyweights, so I wouldn't really fancy myself.
I think it's fair enough. I'd be in your camp on that. Jonathan on Twitter says, Peter O'Mahony, rugby to MMA, Nicky Butt, and I mean, this is a ridiculous call, Gooch. That is not the ridiculous call.
I do want a few more people in lower weight classes here. We have gone for kind of like
the big boys,
yeah. Like I'm not sure. I can see where they're going with Gooch. I mean, he's nimble. He'd get around. He'd be hard to pin down, I'd imagine. But I don't think he'd do much damage.
He wouldn't take too many shots.
No, I could see him being knocked out cold actually pretty much immediately.
Joss Moore, I'd fancy Jason Robinson would be hard to hit and would have a lot of explosive power. Peter O'Mahony also, he says he wouldn't be the best looking fighter, but he'd be tough as nails. Stephen Ferris, and there's a few shouts for him, would have been terrifying.
Ferris, says great shout.
Anthony wondering about Zlatan, why hasn't he been in there? And Ricey McManaman says Colleran on Twitter.
He would actually be...
He'd be your lower weight class.
He would be kicked out of the UFC for being too dirty.
What about like you haven't got like a Ruby Walsh or someone like you mean that's used to getting breaks and bangs and stuff like that? Like
very good left field, good shot.
Yeah,
there.
like someone that's used to taking hits and it extends from falling off a horse is no easy feat. So they get back up, don't they?
Plenty of love for Zlatan and Sonny Bill Williams. So somebody here on YouTube. Well, that's already a pro boxer, so it's like
he was a boxer, wasn't he?
Yeah. There is a man I would not like to be in the ring with. But do keep your comments coming in. We'll bring more of those to you between now and 9:30. It is coming up on 8 o'clock, 5 to 8 on this Friday morning, wherever you are. We're delighted to have you with us, whether you're listening to us or watching us or wherever it may be that you are this morning. We've news on a really nice auction as well to bring you, and we'll bring you that very shortly. But first of all, we're going to talk some football. John Giles here on Manchester United's penalty gate. We'll be doing a deep dive in this weekend's Premier League fixtures, and Liverpool legend Phil Thompson all on the way.
This is total nonsense, Richie. The manager is responsible for this. That when you come into a game as manager, this is off the field things that you have to sort out, and sort out very, very quickly, and it's very simple. If it's Pogba or Rashford is the penalty taker, they are the penalty taker. You don't have two penalty takers. And what happened at Molineux was it looked like a little bit of a row between Rashford and Pogba, who would take it. And Rashford said, "Okay, you take it." And as we know, he missed it. It should never be the case. And Solskjaer is actually blaming the two players for it. He's responsible for it, Richie. He's the manager. When you take over as manager, that's a simple thing to sort out. You have a penalty taker, and that's the penalty taker. You don't have two penalty takers. Like on Monday night, say for example, or some stage, we have two designated penalty takers, Richie. Say neither of them are not keen on taking the penalty. What do?
Wasn't there some sort of a story afterwards that he went into the dressing room? I was reading a story last night that Solskjaer got into the dressing room afterwards and said to Pogba in front of everybody, "That's it, you're done on penalties."
Yeah, there was talk about it. They were saying there was rumours coming out that was a dressing down and he won't be too happy about how it went. But that's his... Solskjaer's put him in that position. Like, granted, Pogba, confidence-wise, and he's confident enough to take it, so you have to hold his hand up and say fair play. He's regardless of the ones he missed, he's still capable of stepping up and hitting it, which a lot of players wouldn't do. But the manager, it's his job. I couldn't agree with Jose more. It's his job to dictate before the game, this is who my penalty taker is, this is who I want on the ball, and if he's on the pitch, you can take them. But you take away any questions of doubt. You manage your manageables. You don't leave situations, and especially when there's points on the board, you can't be letting him take it or feel like he should take it because you want to give him confidence or you want him to feel better about himself. It's about winning at the end of the day, and Manchester United need to win games. So you need to pick the person you feel is best capable of and eliminate any question of doubt.
The unfortunate thing that for me, looking at the coverage the other night and the aftermath of it, which was as interesting as the game, none of it made any sense, and nobody was saying it on the night that so Gary Neville was getting obviously quite irate that this was a situation that was allowed to happen, and then Solskjaer came out and explained it, and Rashford came out and explained it, but none of it made any sense. We'll be on the pitch and we'll decide between ourselves who's confident enough to take it. There isn't a footballer that has ever existed, particularly in those positions, that has stepped forward and said, "Listen, I'm not feeling great about this, maybe you should have it." Like, it's an utterly ridiculous situation, and I believe that Solskjaer needed to be hammered for it. Like, he should have been the one who had taken it. Whatever about going in afterwards, look, at least if he's gone in at that stage and taken the stance after the game and said, "Listen, I'm now making a call, you're off penalties, Rashford's going to look after him," at least he's done it at that stage. But it didn't reflect amazingly on him that he allowed that situation to occur in two games.
Makes him look extremely weak as a manager, in the fact that he just, with Pogba being such a personality, that he didn't want to take him off them or didn't want to not give him an opportunity to take one. Rashford scored one the week before. It was a no-brainer that this guy is your penalty taker, and we all probably thought that he was the penalty taker based on the week before, so it doesn't make any sense. And Solskjaer did need to be hammered for it because it's a situation he's allowed happen. If Rashford had stepped up and missed it, but he was the designated penalty taker, you'd be saying fair enough, what can you do? And he's probably got a better goal scoring record than Pogba does, so you can't complain about it. It made no sense, and for every team I've ever played for, going into the game who your penalty taker is, and if he's on the pitch, who's the number two as well.
Solskjaer got a lot of credit when he first took over the job for changing the mood of the dressing room with his modern style of management, which was kind of tapping more into the emotional intelligence of the players and allowing the players to make their own decisions. Is this not just part of that philosophy? Yeah,
it probably is part of philosophy, but there's time and a place to do that. And I think when you're actually sending your team out on a pitch, the players need clear and incisive instructions to perform. I know he wants them to have a level of responsibility on themselves and but they're not exactly natural born leaders in the sense that then there's no Roy Keane on the pitch for them anymore. So he's the one that has to dictate to them what he wants from them, and when it comes to penalties, he should just be saying, you're my number one, and that's it. There should be no question about it. He's the manager at the end of the day. People shouldn't really question that decision, and if Pogba did have an issue with it, you come and pull him and tell him, well, show him statistics and say, well, he's better than you, so that's why I do it. You have a clear output of why you're doing it as well, so it's not like it's a hard decision to make.
Yeah.
If that's true, like, I think that changes the picture considerably about Solskjaer and all of this. This idea that he's actually realised his mistake and actually gives him a bit of a dressing down in the dressing room, and has realised the mistake of his ways, that he should have picked a penalty taker. Like, that's quite impressive if he actually does go to Pogba and take it off him immediately after that.
I would definitely agree with that. For me, I just think that if it had happened 3 hours earlier, right, like rather than after, when he stands in front of the camera, I was cringing looking at him in that interview afterwards when he's been asked about it, and he's clearly does not believe a word that he's saying.
No.
Like, you assume that somebody who spent that long in a dressing room understands that the decision he's made was wrong to begin with, but now when you see it play out in the way that it did, he starts to understand that he's done something wrong.
But hammering Paul Pogba in that post-match interview would have been textbook Jose Mourinho, and that is the exact thing that Solskjaer is supposed to not be.
But the thing is, if he did hammer him again, which I don't know, if he did hammer him, he's hammered him because of a decision he's not made.
Yeah.
If he's allowed Paul Pogba and Rashford to decide on the pitch who takes the penalty, then why is Pogba wrong? You know what I mean? So he's not wrong in that sense. So why is he hammering him? If he's gone and said, okay, he's not really within his right to hammer him then almost, because he said he's the one that's put them in that situation.
Yeah. Mourinho never would have allowed that to happen.
No, he would have just no manager would.
Yeah, absolutely bonkers. Like, there is another side to Solskjaer, and obviously they play Palace tomorrow, 3 o'clock at Old Trafford. Like, the other side to him, where the ruthless side to him that are, you know, Jones and Smalling have not featured in matchday squad so far. Matic isn't getting game time. Like, these are senior players who would have been heavily leaned on under previous regimes. Like, there is a ruthlessness to that, and also it does demonstrate that he can make those calls, and that he has to manage a dressing room that, you know, those are senior players who will be like thought and culture leaders within that team. That's not a tough decision to make.
No,
not an easy decision to make.
No, not an easy decision to make. But what makes me feel a little bit less that it's a decision that all these players sign new contracts while Solskjaer was, well, I think Smalling may not have.
Jones I think did, Smalling didn't.
So these are like Jones.
He needed to do that though.
Yeah, so Jones has given him a new contract, a long-term contract at the club, but he didn't want him as a player. A manager that didn't want him would have just told him, no, you're not getting a new contract and you're not needed. And that, as much as that's terrible as a player and you don't want to hear that, he's holding on to him in case he doesn't get what he wants in the summer, so that's probably part of it. But he still had time left on his deal, so he could have just said to him, listen, we're not in a position to offer you a new contract at the moment, not tying him down. So Jones is there, as much as he's frustrated he's not playing, he's still got a long-term deal at the club at Manchester United, and Solskjaer is the one that made that decision. So for me, I don't think he's still leaving them out and they're going to have issues, but they don't strike me as the two type of players that are going to be kicking up a massive fuss in the background if they're not playing. They seem a little bit more level-headed and not going to throw toys out of pram type thing. But decision to give those players contracts when you probably had no intention of using them, I think that's a bit weak as well.
Bizarre, yeah. It seems like he's going to get some money again in January, that he'll have that Lukaku money to spend, it seems, on a midfielder, 75 million. So if he lasts that long, he'll be able to bring in some good talent. As I said, they have Palace this weekend. The Palace themselves, obviously not a team that have had an amazing start to the season.
Are we actually kind of getting into that realm now, the if he lasts that long sort of situation? Because I definitely would have been on board with that. But have we not seen two performances from Manchester United that are really encouraging? Like, they were the better team at Molineux the other night. They beat Chelsea 4-0. Talking about a manager getting sacked before Christmas after that start of the season, I think is getting ahead of ourselves a little bit.
No, I don't think at the moment he's not in a position. I think we're talking about because of the situation that arose, and he's thrown up question marks about his ability as a manager of a big club because of decisions he hasn't made. So that's why we're probably discussing it more. So based on results and how they've played, they've done okay. The Chelsea game was a very good win, and it was very clinical, it was very. No, they didn't play like Manchester Roll, but Manchester United were always capable of not performing well but still scoring when they got an opportunity. They always had players that would, when they got a chance, they would score a lot of goals, and that's what they did against Chelsea. They were extremely clinical, which was not unlike Manchester United of old. And then at the Molineux, they should have won the game. They had a penalty, and they performed well. So yeah, they're in good stead, and they look like they're a team that's better than what they were last season, and with the introduction of Harry Maguire, that's made slight changes, and he's definitely an improvement on the defensive side of things to what they originally had. So they look okay, But it's going to be stuff like this that will be questioning his ability as a manager rather than their.
I know we want to move on, but I just want to get your brief kind of technical breakdown of Aaron Wan-Bissaka. How impressed have you been looking at him over the first couple of games?
Yeah, I think he's definitely improvement than what they had. He's so athletic. He's very good to get up and down the pitch. I think he still is a little bit. He's young, so he's a bit naive, positional sense-wise. Sometimes he leaves gaps where he shouldn't, and that's only going to come with games. He's had one full season in the Premiership, and he's done very well. But you can see he's definitely a player that is there for the future for them. He's someone that looks like he's willing to learn as well. So once he has the right encouragement and he has the right people around him, they can teach him the position extremely well. But I think he will be better than what Shaw is for them.
Just a quick one on that United Palace game at the weekend and what way you expect it to go. Obviously Palace have probably disappointed a little bit so far this season, albeit not a huge concession of goals necessarily, but expecting United to get that done.
You expect United to win that game. With the way Palace are at the moment, and it doesn't seem to be unrest in the camp, but with Zaha missing out on his move and he's not firing on all cylinders, and they're very much he's the everything that goes well for Palace runs through him, and if he's not, like I said, there's only 2 games in, so he's not performing well, but there was a lot going on there that he didn't get away. So if he is in any way not happy with the situation and not performing to his full capabilities, Palace suffer because he is their linchpin. So if he's not on form for them, then they could struggle. But Roy Hodgson always has his team set up in a hard way to break down, and they've not conceded loads of goals, so it's not going to be an easy win, but it's a game that you think Man U should win.
Yeah, and from a Palace point of view, obviously having been beaten by Sheffield United last time out, and certainly not had the most fantastic a start to the season, losing to Sheffield United, drawing 0-0 I suppose with Everton on the opening day. They have a Leicester Sheffield United of Leicester this weekend, and obviously plenty of Irish interest here, Stephen. We've been keeping an eye on them, but the big chatter before the season was that they were going to come and play football in the Premier League. Are they, from what you've seen so far?
Yeah, they haven't really deviated from what they did last season, which is really impressive because the way they play is very different to what you see most teams. If you see a team set up in a 3-5-2, the back three tend to stay put. They cover the space that the full backs leaves, and the 3 centre backs don't really leave their positions. But Sheffield United have last season, I watched them a couple of times, and I can show you in the text support.
Please.
So when they have the ball, these 2 centre backs are inclined to overlap or underlap their wing backs, which you don't really see, and it leaves huge amount of space that the 2 remaining centre-backs have to cover, and then a lot of times it's Norwood, the deep-lying midfielder, that tries to get into those positions as well. But he is very much so their technical player on the ball that can pick passes, so he does feature high up the pitch as well. It's extremely encouraging to see that they haven't changed their system at all, and that the way they play is very much something you wouldn't have seen much. And except we discussed before, if Pep Guardiola was doing a Man City, you'd be like, wow, this guy is reinventing football. It is amazing to see. It's just whether or not that this, with the players they have and with the talent they have at their disposal, is this system going to cause them problems the further they go down the season, because it does leave a lot of space. And teams that can break quickly on you, which in the Premiership happens all the time. The pace teams offer now, the top 6, usually the front 3 are phenomenal, like are able getting away quickly, and then they've got the quality to find that pass. So it could cause them an issue going on, but it's so encouraging to think that they haven't changed from what they did last year, that they're still trying to do the right things, they're still playing good football, and this overlapping centre-backs, it's something I'd never seen before, not from a back three. I've played the system when I've joined in before, and you drive out with the ball to a certain point, and usually the wing back will come back in to cover you, not stay up the pitch and leave you exposed or leave you kind of vulnerable. But it's getting a lot of men forward, and it's causing the oppositions to question what they're doing, because they wouldn't have played against it before either. I know they'll work on it beforehand and they'll see what they do, so they'll be showing these are points we can expose. But it's definitely encouraging from them, and you have to be applauded for them still doing it this season.
So what sort of player do you need to be an effective member of that back 3?
You need to be mobile. Egan is a central one, so he's probably the least mobile out of the 2. So he kind of covers more ground in that sense, sideways and back, and builds it up. But it's you need to, as a centre back from this position, you almost have to have a full back's mindset going forward. You can't really be thinking like a centre back, because centre backs will just want to stay here, protect the box, where this guy has to be looking forward and picking passes from further up the pitch, which they're not normally in that position doing. And out here, sometimes they're putting cross into the box. So when you watch it, you're kind of taken by. I did discuss this last season, saying it's going to be really interesting if they stay with it, and to watch from a punter's point of view, it must be so, I suppose, different to what you've ever seen before. But the centre backs do need to be mobile to be able to offer that outlet.
So then, what is the knock-on impact on the wing backs?
Well, it depends on where the wing backs go. If the wing backs come inside, they have to have the ability to link in and play with the front two. Robinson and McGoldrick. McGoldrick tends to drop into a deeper position. Even though he's very good at the pitch, he tends to drop in here and try to link up. But the fullbacks come inside quite often, and then when they do come down the wing, it allows the two centre forwards to stay into the box. Then, so when they get forward, they have the two midfielders edging up. Sometimes this is the centre back crossing the ball, and the fullback kind of operates a position here near the edge of the box. So they're kind of ringing the box and regaining the ball from high up the pitch as well.
Like we mentioned, the quality of the opposition they've played so far, and I mean, Palace should be probably a little better off than they are. Bournemouth, not amazing. They have Leicester, that might be a bigger test this weekend. Is this something that they will stick to when they play against the better teams, or is there, because there's a real jeopardy from the system that you've described there in terms of being exposed at the back? Is that something they'll still continue against the better teams? I
think Wilder might be, might be clever enough. I think he might be know the league well enough to think that, you know what, if we do this against a Man City or a Liverpool, like Liverpool have a front three, if you expose that space there and you have Sadio Mane on this place, they would get absolutely destroyed. So you would feel he's going to think to himself, right, this game is a game we can't really let you go forward. If you do go forward, you have to get in there, or you have to stay back. You can't be linking up as much as you should be. So it's I feel they will alter it slightly so that they can adapt to the bigger teams and the I suppose the attacking threat the bigger teams will offer against them. So it's something I feel that he will alter slightly and make changes to it, because they could get really exposed. He might not in the first game to see how it goes and to see if it's a shock to the system for them, but you would feel going down the line, if they want to survive in this league, that's something that they will have to alternate against teams that offer a lot of pace and with a three up front. Is it a disaster from an Irish point of view that the Irish players obviously involved in that defence, that is not a system we're going to be playing anytime soon? Not really. No, not really. I feel, for us as a country, we just need players playing in the top flight, and it doesn't matter what system they're playing in, because they're good enough to come in and adjust to what we want. So for Stevens playing in the wing-back role, that's encouraging him to get forward, but he is a full-back at heart. He was a left-back predominantly. He's not a winger turned into a wing-back. He's a full-back turned into a wing-back. Egan's still playing centre-back. He's playing in the central centre-back role, which, again, he's not the one that's expected to go forward and overlap. So for him, that won't change much for Ireland. And then the front two, they're playing the front two role. So again, that's not going to really change what we expect from them. So you are thinking that McCarthy will just go with McGoldrick and Robinson up front now for Ireland, do you think? Because it has been, it's not been a front two really as such. They have played together, but not as a front two. Like, you would think that's what we will play against the lesser teams. When we're playing against a more difficult opponent, he does like to have the five midfield and one up front to offer us a bit more security at the back. So whether one of those doesn't get played, you would think McGoldrick is the one that's going to stay up on his own if they're going to pick one, because he does offer an outlet. He's physical on the ball, he can link up play, and he's a willing runner, which he showed in the couple of games he's played for us. So I think this might not happen as much against teams that we could struggle against. But against the lesser teams, that's definitely an option. And if they're playing together for club, that's only encouraging, because what we have been lacking is goals, and if they can start to get some for club, then hopefully that will come on to Ireland too. Yeah, McGoldrick missed a sitter last weekend. He did, absolutely. Like, it's funny because we will inevitably end up spending a vast chunk of the year speaking about who's going to play where and who's going to do what sort of system we're going to play. Ultimately, we do need somebody who's going to bang it into the goals. We'll leave that one there for the minute. Villa Everton obviously tonight. We are going to be joined by Phil Thompson shortly to talk about Liverpool. They take on Arsenal. That game is the evening game tomorrow. But Villa Everton tonight. Villa obviously losing to Spurs. Too much argument with that, because plenty of teams going to do that this season. Conceded too early against Bournemouth might be the last time out might be slightly more concerning for them, and a game that indeed in the end they could have got something from. Like, on paper,
a pretty decent squad that really shouldn't be in the conversation about relegation.
Now, before the season, and people are asking you which teams you fancy, I fancied Villa to do well this year, and in the games they've played, they've actually played quite well. Villa, they threw the game away, and they're doing silly little mistakes that you probably could have got away with in the Championship, but you can't in this league. You can't make errors like the Grealish getting caught in the ball in the game against Tottenham, completely punished. Like you're talking about one of the best strikers in the world. You don't give him an opportunity in the box at any time in the game. And then in midfield, when he stepped over the ball in the last game, and it just ran across the pitch and is picked up, and they conceded from it. So little silly mistakes that they have to learn from quickly, that the manager's going to have to say, you can't be doing this, you have to be consistent. He likes to have his teams defensively solid, and with someone like John Terry there, he's only going to be working with the back four and telling them how to play and keeping this strong unit. So I would, at the end of the season, I don't think, don't quote me on this now, I don't think they'll still be in. I think they have a good squad. I think they've bought wisely. They've brought players in that fit into the system. They haven't just gone like Fulham did and just brought in players that they had no way of knowing how they're going to fit in or play. They seemed, I felt that they've recruited well, and I think at the end of the season they should be in a position where they're okay.
Is that stuff that you talk about, like on one hand it certainly seems that it might actually just be an experience thing at that level, that ultimately like the manager can, or the coaches can tell them all they want that, listen, you needn't do that, stop doing that, but ultimately they just need a bunch of games, and at some point after 10 or 12 games they begin to see that the level of this game is slightly above where we're at, and it's the experience that improves it.
Well, you would think they'd hopefully learn before 10 or 12 games, because at that point you think it's quarter way through the season. You need to be quick enough, and you need to learn on your feet in that league, because the Premiership doesn't allow for mistakes. It doesn't allow for people, it doesn't give you that much time to adjust to it. So for them, even though they're inexperienced in this level, they're still experienced players. Grealish has played a lot of league games and played a lot of time, so he needs to know that if I'm going to be dribbling with the ball, I do it high up the pitch. I do it at times where it's going to suit us, not on the edge of my own box against arguably one of the best teams in the league that's been tipped for promotion this season. So you got to learn quickly, and you think after 2 games now that's something that the manager is saying to them, listen, you've made mistakes, that's fine, and I'm encouraging you to play a certain way, that's fine, but the little things are in and around their box that are going to cause us problems, or are going to cause us goals against us, we can't be doing that all season because we will get relegated. So that's something he would have picked up on, and the players will have to learn quickly from it.
Yeah. From the other side, Everton obviously beat Watford 0-0 with Palace. They've yet to concede a goal and have an incredibly settled and like very good back four, obviously, and plenty of depth coming in there now as well. They've been like 11th, 8th, 8th, 7th, something like that over the last 4 seasons. You would like to think that given the players they've brought in, the quality of that back four and that bit of experience that they have, that actually they should have ambitions a little higher than that.
I think they do have ambitions higher than that. Everton have been a team that have tried every window. They've brought in players. They kind of go under the radar slightly in the sense of their spending. I feel every year that they're trying to improve the team, improve the squad. There's been changes in managers every year, but they seem to be quite settled at the moment now, and the back four do look very good together. They look solid. The only question I would have had would have been Mina. I do like him. I think he can be very good, but I think sometimes he can have a little bit of a slip up on him, but so far he's been good. Going forward, they're trying to break into the top 6. That's their aim. That's their goal. And they're not. I don't think they're content with being a team that's just going to finish in the top 10 anymore. Finish just outside, possibly get a Europa League spot based on the league positions of other teams. They want to be in the top 6. They want to be pushing for it, and it's just who can they knock off their perch, because they're trying to spend similarly to those other teams. And over the course of the last few seasons, they probably have matched some of the spending of the other clubs. It's a tough ask for them, but they seem settled and they look like they're improving.
Who's going to win that tonight?
Draw.
Sit on the fence.
Yeah, no, draw. I feel it could be a draw, yeah.
Do you hate Aston Villa?
I can't say no.
I'm going to ask you this question every time you come in another club.
It's one of those things. As a Blues player, as a Birmingham player, you have to hate them to a certain extent. But then I spent a year training with Aston Villa not so long ago under Steve Bruce, and obviously Steve Bruce was the Birmingham manager when I was there. So, and it was a great club. It's really well organised. The staff there are brilliant. As much as I hate to admit it, they're a very good club, and I loved being in there. So, like I said, as a player when you're younger, you feel like you have to, not like them, and But when you step away from the game, and I've trained there for a season, I enjoy what they did. I enjoy the setup. I like the way the club was run and organised, and I just felt that this is a good club, and it's nice to have, even though they're huge rivals and the games I've played in have been fierce, but it's a good club.
Did you ever get any bit of stick for going in training with Villa?
Yeah, I got a bit actually. Yeah, from the fans, because I was living in Solihull, so it's close. There's a few Birmingham fans around there, so it wasn't too bad because
the Birmingham fans that were giving you stick.
Yeah, Birmingham fans giving me stick for being in with the Villa, and then they were saying, "Why didn't I just train with the Blues?"
Fair point.
And I was like, "Well, considering Steve Bruce was our manager, he's the manager of Birmingham." I said that was the option. So it was, and they were like, "Oh, I can understand." It's a lovely part of the world, and the fans are great fans. They really are very good. And for Birmingham, I'm just good that the club has not moved on from the time I was there. If anything, it's gone down, and with the ownership issues and points being deducted, I'd love to see them get back up to being a top flight team, being in the Premiership, and being a team that's stable.
Yeah. Talk to us about Norwich Chelsea. It's the early game tomorrow. The 1-1 for Chelsea last time out, maybe a truer reflection of them, I think it was against Leicester, than the opening, obviously, United landslide loss to United. Then you start to see the reports of Lampard. I don't know if you saw this, but he was in Partucan training during the week, and they were having a game of Rondo or whatever it was, and Bakayoko goes to pass the ball, Lampard's on top of him, cuts him out, all the players are going bonkers. The main thing that I sort of like, it's the classic Glenn Hoddle scenario where he's in the training pitch and like, get out of there, you know what I mean? Like, it's, be sure you're fit as a fiddle, you could go and do whatever you want still, but like, in terms of that relationship with the players, surely he just needs to be out of there.
Yeah. I was at Tottenham with Glenn Hoddle when he used to join in training.
Were you really? Right.
Yeah, so he was the first manager that brought me in around the first team. It was amazing for me to watch because he was still a joy to watch as a player, and you look at him going, he's actually technically better than most of the players on this pitch. It was unbelievable. He's probably the best player I've ever seen live, and he was the manager. Honest to God, wow. His technical ability is...
What age would he have been at that point?
I know, this was 2002 when I was there, when I was been around the first team, 2003, so...
40s anyway, early
40s, but his technical ability is like nothing you've ever seen before. The way he passes the ball outside both feet. I remember one session, not to deviate, I got off the point, one session they were taking free kicks. Like, Jamie Redknapp, all these guys taking free kicks. Hoddle steps up saying, maybe you should do like this, whipping them in top corner, and the lads are just going, like, would you ever?
Maybe you should do it like this.
Yeah. Both feet, and you're going, and you're just thinking, oh God, that's not the right way to get your players on board. But yeah, from Lampard's point of view.
But on that, like, isn't that the exact point? Like, you know, these players are looking at Hoddle doing these things going, like, that's great, you're amazing, you're one of the greatest most skillful footballers of all time, but like, we can't do that.
So all you need is frustrating them.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, we know how it should be done, we just can't do that. Yeah. And you pointing that out to us is not helping us.
No, it is.
What was the reaction amongst the players? Were they amongst yourselves, were you like, listen, Jesus, I wish he'd...
I was a young lad, so I didn't really have an opinion in that sense. I was just happy to be up there and joining in and training and involved. But you could see there was a sense of unrest around some of the senior players. They didn't like it. They weren't encouraged by it. They felt there was, I don't know, I can't think of the right word to say how their reaction was to it, but they didn't like it. And some of the really senior players really didn't like it, and they felt that it was almost undermining them and their ability, because he would step in and do things that they couldn't do, and would question why they couldn't do it to an extent, because he found it so easy. So for Lampard, he's going to join in as the club legend. He's running training, and every now and again for the managers to join in, it was fun. Like Steve Bruce used to join in at Birmingham sometimes, but it was only on a Friday, and it was pure banter. It was
he made you all feel much better.
Yeah, exactly. He'd be like running around, and lads like give him a kick every now and again for the crack. But it was kind of funny. Lampard joining in now, and I'm not too sure that's the right way to go. You need to separate yourself from the players. You need to be able to be the manager and tell them what you feel from them, and not, because they'd still look up to him, they'd still see him as a player and how good he was and try to emulate what he did, but he should be doing that from the sidelines, not from in and around the pitch, I don't think.
Phil Thompson, you played under some great managers, you were part of some great management teams. What's your take on Frank Lampard getting involved in the training pitch? Is it his place to do that, or should he stay well clear of it?
I think he's got to try and just ease himself out. I still think it's a learning process with Frank, because it's so early in his tenure as a manager. He's had, not even 18 months as a manager. And I'm just listening to the chat there, and players when they play. These players, these can't do what I can do. I could still be playing. You have to detach that from yourself. And I know from a lot of great players who do. Kenny Dalglish was player manager at Liverpool, and he had to be told by Ronnie Moran and Roy Evans, because he was still playing at times, even in training, he'd be doing things, he'd be getting so emotionally involved just in the 8-a-sides that they were going, you're going to have to detach yourself, you're going to have to take yourself away, particularly in matches at half-time when his blood was boiling and he was playing. They would say, look, we will do the talking, you have to just calm down. He had to realise that very, very quickly. But just as a manager, Frank really, and I totally agree, he has to detach himself and you have to make good decisions. And I think that's where you come down to the David Luiz. Making that decision, I think, was a very, very good one. And I know Frank says, oh, there was not a problem, there wasn't anything happening. The character that David Luiz is, he would think, Frank's my mate, I'm all right, I can take advantage of this. And I think that decision had to be made. I think that would have been done with a staff thing, but I think it would ultimately be Frank Lampard. I thought it was a very big and brave decision to cut David Luiz, because I think he would have been a big problem. And you get them in the dressing room, they're quite right. You get one or two who are even stronger than the others, and they're the ones that you have to just say, right, I have to make this decision for the good of the club, but more so for the good of myself to be a manager.
Yeah, and he has Rudiger obviously to come back potentially even this weekend, so presumably things looking up for him. Just one, and how did Kenny react to that, Phil, when his coaching staff were saying to him, listen, you need to sort of step out of there? Was he responding positively to that?
At first, Kenny Dalglish is like, he'd be really angry because he was passionate, he was a winner. But I think quite quickly you realise, because Ronnie Moran and Roy Evans are great lieutenants for him, and they were absolutely fantastic, particularly Ronnie Moran. And I think when you know Ronnie's experience in the game, I think Kenny took that on board very, very quickly. But you're right, when you're in training and you get involved, because our coaches were always involved, Ronnie Moran in particular, with Roy Evans, they would be involved every day, and they got passionately involved. They weren't the managers, but when Kenny was doing it every day, he wanted to win in the 8-a-sides. So it was you hadn't at times attached yourself, but that was a very much a Liverpool way, where the managers and coaches played in the 8-a-sides.
Let's move on to the Liverpool-Arsenal game this weekend. Gary Neville had said at your Sky Sports colleague a couple of weeks ago, just before the season started, that United were going to win the Premier League before Liverpool were. I'm sure you have your thoughts on that, but on the basis of what you've seen...
I've not stopped laughing.
Go on.
My goodness, Gary is absolutely wonderful. I'd like to think he just said that with a little bit of tongue-in-cheek at the time. But maybe he just thinks Liverpool in the cycle with the Premier League is that if you get 97 points and you don't win the league, you're never going to win it. And in that case, Manchester United will do. Listen, Manchester United had a very good start, 4-0 against Chelsea. I don't think, and I totally agree with everybody, it wasn't a 4-0 game, but they played very well. I thought Manchester United were very, very good in the first half, but showed a lot of the old traits in the second half, where they became a bit blasé, they'd be thinking they were better than what they were, and they should have really put the game to bed. So I think Gary will have been just winding maybe Jamie Carragher up and a lot of the proper Reds.
Phil, why do Liverpool keep hammering Arsenal, and do you think it's going to happen, and have Arsenal done anything to stop that happening again in their first meeting this season?
It has been I think it's been one of those games where I think it's two sort of characters and lots of abilities sort of come together. And I think Arsenal, the way they play, because they've always been nice, sort of pretty team, nice, really, but now for a long time they've lacked a leader. Since obviously the Invincibles and all that, they've lacked that sort of somebody, especially when it starts going wrong. They can capitulate very, very easily. And I think and Liverpool, dare I say, even through some bad times, they've always had a few characters in there who could go and do it. Go back to the Robbie Fowler times. Well, Robbie was like sort of can take the game by, even as a young lad, by the scruff of the neck. And when he smells blood, he goes for it. And I think Arsenal have been on the end of quite a few of them. I don't know, but this could be one of the biggest scoring games in the Premier League, I would think, since it started. There's been some right score lines, but I think it is that. I think they've lacked characters that Liverpool have had in these games, and that's why that's happened. I'm hoping it'll be like that tomorrow. But with Arsenal, had a little bit of a good start, sort of like Manchester United. You can feel a little bit of confidence in there. But if you want, both sides quite similar, because both sides are very good attacking-wise and poor defensively.
Would you be worried, Phil, about defensively Liverpool with the likes of Aubameyang up against them at the moment? I know defensively Liverpool were so good last season, but this year they've showed some frailty. So would you have a sense of worry about that going into the game?
I do worry slightly. I've been a bit worried about our defence, not just obviously the couple of games that the pre-season has brought along in the Super Cup, but I've been really worried about the pre-season. It was showing these sort of lack of concentration in those games. Now people have gone on about a high line, and I can't say that I don't agree with them. I do think we're about 5 yards too high, but it's not just that side, guys. It's when they do push up, when the ball goes over your head, it's how you react. And I think this season and pre-season, when the ball's gone over there, they're all looking who's going to run back. And it's the reaction time, which is not, and we're always sort of chasing back, and we're always sort of maybe a yard or two behind some attackers. That does have to get righted. But I don't think Arsenal have improved good enough defensively, even the signing of David Luiz, to sort of make a difference. And I think it will be the team that does defend that bit better. I think we'll come out victors tomorrow. I really do. Because the boys up front, the both attacks are really good. Aubameyang, his movement's fantastic. I do like Lacazette. And we're yet to see what Pepe can do in the Premier League.
It obviously depends on the quality of opposition, but like Liverpool's game plan of pressing you when they don't have the ball and then obviously hitting you on the counter-attack is pretty well known at this stage. What if you were planning against them, what game plan unlocks this Liverpool team?
I think they've got to be solid. I think they've got to have a solid team block. Try not to give the ball away. And I think this is where, when you say teams can sort of smell blood, Liverpool are a bit better in possession at the back than what Arsenal are. Arsenal have been obviously renowned for it. And David Luiz can be sloppy. And I think Liverpool will try and push on them, sort of high press. I don't think Arsenal will do it, because I don't think sort of Lacazette, Aubameyang do possess that way of high press. I always wondered why Klopp never ever went for Aubameyang, because he scored so many goals for him in Dortmund, knew all about him, that he never come. And maybe it was that he didn't understand what he required. So I think that's where I think maybe Arsenal need maybe sort of to have a block which is going to be a little bit, and to allow Liverpool to sort of come onto them a little bit.
It does sound like it's something that you suspect might not be fully implemented by Arsenal, though, that there are going to be gaping holes in the Arsenal game plan. Maybe I'm putting that too strongly, Phil, but certainly you're leaning well towards a Liverpool win.
Well, I would like to think Liverpool. I am leaning to Liverpool win, as you would imagine. But I do, because of that, defensively, they've still not convinced me, Arsenal. Liverpool, we know, can do it. But Arsenal, even with David Luiz in there, I think there's mistakes in Liverpool with their high press. And that's what I'm saying about Mane, Salah, and Firmino. Firmino's the one who triggers a lot of the defending of the front ones. They know exactly when to go. And that, I still don't think in midfield and at the defence that they're good enough to sort of withstand that press that Liverpool have, particularly at Anfield as well.
Yeah, all right, Phil, we'll talk to you again over the course of the season. Thanks a million for taking the call this morning.
Great, guys. Take care.
Thanks a lot, Phil Thompson on the line there, 8:33 on this Friday morning. He does make that point about the Chelsea defence, which we might pick up on a little bit. Like, they've a mix of players in there who are playing out of position. Chambers, who was dropped last week. They've a couple of players. The Arsenal defence, sorry. A couple of players who are like great players on their day, but definitely prone to a mistake here there. And you assume, obviously, there are players to come into that. They will when they're fit to come back and strengthen it. But it must be a concern for Arsenal, that defence.
It was an area that everybody felt they had to strengthen and really invest in, and no one really thinks they've done it that way. David Luiz, granted, is a good player, and we've just spoke about him quite a lot on here, saying that on his day he can be excellent. He really can. It's just sometimes he's got a craziness about him where he'll run out of position, or he'll make a bad tackle, or he'll do something that jeopardises the whole makeup of the defence. So he's probably better than what they had, but have they fixed the defensive issues that they've had? I don't think so. Tierney to come into them will definitely improve them. He's very good, and we've heard Pan Evan talking about how he thinks he's better than Robertson, which I still have question marks about that. But they're trying to make steps in the right direction in that, and they're trying to improve it. I feel there'll still be issues there throughout the season, though.
Like, overall, in a team sense, has it not been a bit of a leap forward from Arsenal? Like, in terms of Ceballos' performance last weekend, in terms of the encouraging glimpse we got of Nicolas Pepe, and really, I think if you had a decision between David Luiz and Shkodran Mustafi, you're picking David Luiz. If you have a choice between Nacho Monreal and Kieran Tierney, you're picking Tierney. So, in an overall sense, a drubbing at Anfield tomorrow would be an absolute disaster given this supposed step forward from Arsenal. Well,
yeah, you feel that they have stepped forward and that David Luiz is an improvement in what they have. It's just not the vast improvement that everybody wanted, and it's not a Van Dijk signing, or, well, let's find out if it's a Maguire signing type. And when you see as well with the chairman, I heard about the interview where Kroenke's come out and he's discussed how that the club are going forward now and they're investing more money in the way that they see the club, and the fact that they've taken over ownership completely, that they feel like they have control of everything now, and then they can push it in the right direction. So they do seem to want to get on board, and they're trying to get the fans back, not back, but get them all on board, because they've been a bit of disgruntlement there with Wenger. But with the signings they have made, and in Pepe, who does look like he could be a real threat. He scored a lot of goals last season. He's the second top goal scorer in the French league outside of Mbappe. And his attributes, his pace, his strength, and they're saying he looks like he could be fully fit to start this game the weekend. So this would be a great show for him to put on a performance. They have come on. It's just whether they've come on enough to actually challenge. But in saying that, I love Aubameyang. I think he is just such a good forward, and he will get them. He'll be up there with the top goal scorers again this season. He'll be scoring 20 odd goals, and if you have a player like that on your side that you can feed, and they have the players to feed him, they have a good chance.
Is there any chance, and I know you're a little bit biased here, but is there any chance that St. Totteringham's Day will be celebrated again this season?
Say again?
Is there any chance that Arsenal will finish ahead of Spurs this season?
No, I don't think so. I think Tottenham have just got a bit more about them. They're a bit steelier. They're a bit more of a unit, and like, touch of wood, Eriksen doesn't get snapped up before that window closes elsewhere. They have the makings of a better squad, and I think under Pochettino, he's been around longer. He understands the Nations League, and they've been making great steps forward. And even they've signed, they've broke their record as well in the summer. So they're a team that are trying to progress and trying to keep up with Liverpool and City. And I think it'll be a tough ask for Arsenal to finish ahead of them.
Yeah, and they don't want, sort of like you've mentioned about Ceballos being the bit of a story so far, they don't want it to be that good, right? Like, they haven't actually signed him, so it's like, just cool your jets a little bit, Ceballos. Be half decent, but not great. Save that until next season, we'll sign you up on a permanent. Right, we're going to leave the football there for the minute. We will come back to it. I do want to let you know that, by the way, we're going to talk rugby in a couple of moments' time, but I do want to let you know that we kicked off our charity auction for Goal yesterday afternoon with Alan Brogan at 3 o'clock. It was a full chat with Richie that you can check up on our YouTube channel or on offtheball.com as well. It's to raise money as part of Goal's general fundraising efforts. It's one single auction lot, especially commissioned. If you're watching us this morning, you'll see it there on your screen. Specially commissioned piece of art, a globe painted by the artist Mark Baker that depicts iconic moments in Dublin football, plus 2 tickets to the All-Ireland final to witness the 5 in a row. And we have a new top bid for this beautiful prize and for the tickets for the game. New top bid is €1,300. So it's currently at €1,300. If you want to top that for that lovely piece, do get in touch with us. We were due to wrap it up on AM this morning, but with bids coming in overnight, we're going to run it over the course of the day. And whatever the top bid is that we have by the end of the day, those tickets and that lovely piece are going to be winging their way to you. To get involved, you can hit us up on Twitter or any of the usual social platforms with your bid. and we'll DM you just to confirm that you're an actual person. And also, you can, to take part, just text the word goal along with your bid amount and your name to 53106 for 30 cent. And you can head to goalglobal.org for more information on Goal's fundraising efforts. We'll have more on that for you before the end of the show and over the course of the day. Just coming up on 20 to 9 of this Friday morning, we're going to talk rugby with Andy Dunne very shortly. He's in the studio. First of all, here's the Irish tennis player Georgia Drummey. She spoke to Off the Bench about coming face to face with the prodigious American talent Coco Gauff. We're back after these.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Join Bruce Betting now for a risk-free first bet up to €100. That's right. New Irish accounts can enjoy a risk-free first bet up to €100. So if your first bet loses, we'll refund your stake with a free bet. Now that's giving you more. Bruce Betting. In store, online, and now on your phone. T's and C's apply. Please gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
OTB AM.
I played against her in doubles last year at the Junior French Open.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool, and like she's doing amazing at the moment.
Would you have been conscious of her in the tennis scene and know how good she was?
Yeah, I'd heard about her a good few, and like she had the previous year gotten to the final of the US Open Juniors.
Yeah.
So I definitely knew she was going to be a great player.
And had you ever met her on the circuit before that?
No, I hadn't. We didn't quite play the same tournaments.
Right. Yeah. And as I said, it's a huge circuit down there. Yeah. And you took them to it was a doubles game, wasn't it? What was it? Was it in French Open?
Yes, French.
And you got to the second round. And you and who else played?
It was my partner Simona Walter. She was from Switzerland.
Right. And you were playing Coco Gauff.
And I don't even remember.
You don't even remember who the other one was. You were just watching Coco all the time. So you're the one who will know more than anybody else in this country why Coco Gauff is so good. Why is she so good?
Well, I mean, first I couldn't believe she was like 4 years younger than me, because her physique, her build, she's very athletic, strong built. She definitely has a big serve for her age. Like, I was really impressed with how she was playing. But yeah, no, I've seen her. She's mentally quite strong, which
she
helps.
Seems to be really strong.
Like, just calm, and she doesn't like get too nervous when she's playing like the top people. She's kind of just like is gonna go out there and play her game.
Yeah, that's the Irish tennis player Georgia Drummey in conversation with Lena, and Off the Bench, full piece up on offtheball.com. Andy Dunne, good morning to you.
Good morning.
How are you getting on?
Very well,
you getting sort of excited now at this point, because it feels like we've been talking about it for years, and actually we're nearly there now.
Yeah, I think tomorrow is it's a big moment in the lead up. Yeah, so getting a bit more real.
They're weird games, aren't they? Like it's almost like it doesn't matter about England. Forget about whatever they're doing, who they're playing, what their game plan is. Like, it's about combinations, it's about tactics, it's about getting through the bloody thing with no more injuries.
Yeah, it's a strange environment. It's like a necessary evil in the lead up to the World Cup. We have to do it because everybody's doing it. But I think for me, getting out unscathed and, a respectable loss wouldn't be a bad thing, not at all.
At some point post that, because we obviously have another couple of big games after that.
Yeah.
At some point soon, like maybe the next game, we start to say, listen, you, and you, get out of here, and we'll see you in Japan.
Yeah, well, I think he's got to make a few calls, obviously, he will be a bit more definitive, I think, after this England game. It's an interesting choice that Eddie Jones went for. He's named his squad very early and just set a stall out. And I suppose the argument for that from Eddie Jones is that there's a clarity and a sense of purpose with that group now that are in there. They're not just fighting to get on the squad. They know they're going. There's reassurance that they're going, and they can really start to zero in on the World Cup. So I think Joe Schmidt was conceded that they're probably a little bit ahead of us in their prep, and that's by design for them. I think Ireland are happy enough to try and peak for 24th September, so they're delaying things a little bit, but that's Joe's approach for now, and it is.
He'll be a genius.
Exactly. Yeah.
Who's the backup to the backup at 10?
For me, I probably on raw talent, I would say Jack Carty is probably the next in line from Joey, but Ross Byrne has not really put a foot wrong for about a year and a half. Anything that's been asked of him, whether it's to start in big European games for Leinster, he's only I think only one start for Ireland over in against the Italians. So it's an interesting one because from a systems point of view, he's probably a little less talented than Jack Carty, but probably a very good systems operator and very, very strong at bringing other players into the game, and probably suits Joe's coaching style maybe that little bit more. He's less instinctive than Jack Carty, and he will do exactly what Joe wants, and that's obviously a plus in Joe's mind. So for me, in terms of pure talent, I would say Jack is the third best there, but I'm not sure would he actually get selected ahead of Ross.
Yeah, is that Burns starting tomorrow? Is that, we just take that as a clear indicator that he's ahead in the pecking order?
I would have thought so, because Jack only got that really a brief kind of bit of time against the Italians coming off the bench for Joey, and you would assume would then be next in line to start against England, but he's been leapfrogged, and it's it's as close to a full starting Irish team as we've seen, we could guess for. So I think for Ross to start, it's a pretty strong indicator. Yeah, he's leapfrogged Jack, I think.
Talk to us a little bit about the difference between the two of them, because like the stuff we've heard is that like one of them is a very instinct player in Carty versus the sort of euphemisms that you've already been using there in terms of Ross Byrne being that bit of a safer player and maybe more of a Joe Schmidt player. But what are the actual differences between Ross Byrne and Jack Carty?
Jack has probably a better running game. He's more of a threat himself. I think he's probably a little faster off the mark. So I think the interior defences probably have to keep an eye on him more. He does things like he chips over defences. He varies how he kicks. He will do what you mightn't expect at given times in terms of his choices, being instinctive, impulsive at times. He might do that from deep in his own half, and he'll be very much someone who'll take on a bit of risk, where Ross will do as is expected of him in terms of the team playing within the shape, playing within the pattern, and he doesn't really vary from that in terms of, say, making an instinctive or impulsive choice. He's a very, very good passer. He's very good execution of crossfield kicks. So, high crossfield kicks to wingers. He's very, he puts that ball on a sixpence a lot of the time, and an excellent goal kicker. He's probably, I would say, probably ahead. I'm not sure on the stats, is he ahead of Jack Carty on success rate with place kicking, but they are quite different players. Yeah, I think Ross's strength is being understated and bringing everyone else into the game very well, particularly at a high level. That's a huge strength because there's a lot of talent around you. Jack's talent, I think, is adding variation and unpredictability to our team game. Yeah,
the latter words is not going to sort of take a box for Joe Schmidt.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. And I think that's probably why Ross has leapfrogged him for the England game. Yeah.
I don't think we've had you on since the Joey Carbery injury, and you're certainly not on AM anyway. Like, how worried are you about the situation? Like, given the fact that he's had to go under and to suffer a minor procedure, that's what they've said, and the fact that no matter what the situation is, it will be a rusty Joey Carbery, I dare say, going into the World Cup, or certainly an untested Joey Carbery when it comes to warm-up games now.
Well, it's a tricky one to work out. I suppose we've got to take them at face value. The mechanism of injury, typically if us three were out playing five-a-side, the most common injury is people roll their ankle on the outside and they get a big sprain and swells up. That's the ligament complex on the outside of the ankle. Then there's a very small one in between the ankle bones, and then there's one on the inside of the ankle. And the way it happened with Joey in the Italian game, half the Italian forward pack fell from the outside in onto Joey's ankle, which would suggest the injury's on the inside part of his ankle. And from with a physio hat on, that's called the deltoid ligament, which is an umbrella term for three ligaments that are joined together. So it's the strongest ankle ligament we have. So to injure it, it's probably the best one to injure. Right. And I was surprised when I heard about the surgical procedure, even albeit minor. I suspect, along the lines of almost cosmetic, that it was something to try and stabilise it further to make sure he's right for the World Cup. He obviously looked a bit upset coming off the field, but everything I've heard since is that it's actually not that bad an injury. So he'll probably be a little rusty going into the World Cup, but I suspect he'll be coming right around week 1 of the World Cup, and then they're going to go with him obviously for the World Cup for his versatility and his talent. I think he'll get away with it in terms of being rusty too.
Yeah, because Schmidt's been talking about that. He said even 9 is an option when it comes to Joey Carbery, let alone 15 and 12, as has been mentioned, I think, by Shane Horgan.
Yeah, I'd love to hear Joe Schmidt mention it as well. I think Shane, it's a very interesting thing Shane Horgan mentioned. I think Joey, I mean, most people when they watch him are a big fan of how he plays. He's not typical in terms of what we see on the rugby field. He glides around. Most guys look kind of heavy set and they've been built in a gym, and
very fluid.
He's just a fluent type of mover. He's a joy to watch. Even in that Italian game, I think he's also learned to be a company man in terms of what Joe would like. He runs those systems very well, and then does allow, or has earned the right to be expressive through his talent and ability, and he's struck a lovely balance in that now, and that came with a bit of maturity from his year with Munster and getting regular game time. I think that was a very smart move by Schmidt and by Carbery, and I know it annoyed a lot of the Leinster management, but ultimately I think it's helped Joey's game. So I would hope we take it at face value. It isn't that serious an ankle injury. I don't think there's any elaborate cover up. I think he's and again, the minor surgical procedure I would hope to just strengthen that already strong ligament that we've got on the inside of that ankle, and hopefully he recovers well.
Don't want to be kicking the man when he's down, obviously, in terms of the injury, but on the basis that is the case and he is going to start, what are the shortcomings in Joey Carbery's game? Because we tend to talk a lot about him, his prodigious nature, the like you say, sort of the Jack Carty-isms, but he's reined himself in to be a Joe Schmidt player. But if I'm targeting him from an opposition point of view, where is he weak?
He doesn't really have any glaring weaknesses in his game. For me, it's more the choices, the selections he makes. So, for example, and I think Johnny Wilkinson is to blame for this. He changed the template for out half play by being so physical. And if you look at Tom Brady playing for the Patriots, if anyone comes near him, he just collapses on the floor in a bid to protect himself. And you can't quite do that. It doesn't transfer straight into rugby. But there's absolutely a way for a young out half, to protect yourself and to learn how to avoid danger. And I think he probably doesn't avoid danger enough. I don't think there's any. There was a few queries on has he got the physical resilience to play international rugby. Now, he absolutely does. He's a physically very strong guy, but he's getting into situations he ought not to be in my view. And I think again, Johnny Wilkinson, Johnny Sexton, Owen Farrell, they love it and they get stuck in all day long, and that's the nature they've got. But they're kind of ruining it for everyone else. all the other out halves of the world who should be wearing a pink vest in training. I think Joey just needs to find that little bit of a balance, and I think to avoid the really unnecessarily physical challenges. For example, the Italian injury, he could absolutely have stood back and let someone else go into that angle and remained in his position. He could have escorted someone into that position. And I think as you get older as an out half and you have more influence, your teammates, your coaching staff, everyone wants you on the field to run the game. And particularly under the Joe Schmidt system, it's not like they dilute responsibility. It's like the number 10 runs our game. So they want you on the field for 80 minutes. So I think you'd probably be given a bit of license to do that at times. If it's avoiding a bit of physical contact or getting out of the firing line in defence, then that's a smart move. So that's where I think he needs to evolve in his game. But in terms of any other aspect of his game, his tackling, his footwork, his passing, his goal kicking, his kicking out of hand, his variation, he's elusive. He's got it all. He's top quality.
You mentioned the Shane Horgan comments on the sort of England route of getting Farrell and Ford on the pitch at the same time. New Zealand have done it obviously more recently with Munga and Barrett. Have we missed a trick now? Should we not have been over the last couple of years spotting this trend and trying to get Sexton and Carbery or whoever it might be on the pitch to vary that, like you mentioned about the 10 running the game, but to ultimately vary that?
Well, I think there's probably still scope for that to happen. For example, Joey can play fullback, and if you look at Mo'unga and Barrett, what's happening is Barrett is they're bringing the game into the midfield, which is really smart to work off. So if even on this here, if we look at the ball is in midfield, what happens is if you've got currently if you're attacking from one side of the field, if your ruck is over here and you've got a glut of players here and your attack is out here, as soon as the ball runs from here, you've 13 people coming at you in a rush defence. It's very hard to manage and play against that. What New Zealand are trying to do is they're trying to bring the ball into midfield, which breaks up these rush defences. It means they can't get as organised. So suddenly you're never going to attack a line of 13 men. You're going to attack a line of 3 and 4 at a time. And what they're doing is Barrett is taking it on one side as a first receiver and Mo'unga on the other. So that immediately puts doubt into this defence. It's very hard for 4 people to rush as fast and commit to being as fast in defence because they're far more vulnerable.
But Ireland can't do that. So Sexton stands here, the opposition know.
At the moment, yeah. So, for example, if we haven't missed, you're saying, have we missed a trick? We haven't done it before, but I don't think it's outlandish to think we could do it in a World Cup. For example, Carbery to play fullback if fit, and have Sexton on one side and Carbery on the other. Both kind of players who can make decisions, I suppose, for attack. Probably more so Joey in terms of off the cuff type of work, but it's certainly a better way to attack than running against the rush defence from the extremities. Certainly that didn't work in the last Six Nations for us at all. So the All Blacks are usually innovators and are ahead of most people, and but England are doing it too. So yeah, it's definitely an option I think we should look at, a la Shane Horgan. I don't think we will.
It doesn't matter actually, say the difference between Barrett and Farrell is obviously one's a 12, one's a 15 with the numbers on their back.
Yeah.
Is that just completely numbers on the back, or is there actually a practical difference there?
In terms of
this breakdown, in terms of this precise tactic, doesn't matter if Carbery's a 12, doesn't matter if he's a 15. Can we still execute this regardless?
I think probably the terminology people are using more and more is that person here is called the first receiver as opposed to the 10, 15 or 12. So, with Farrell, with Ford in England, with Mo'unga and Barrett, the Aussies did it before with Foley and Curtly Beale, and lots of. Essentially, you got your playmaker and your ball player either side of the ruck as the first receiver, having gone into midfield. Ireland at the moment, it seems all roads run through Johnny at the moment as that first receiver. On this side, we don't, unless Carbery's on the field, we don't have an obvious playmaking option there. Maybe Keith Earls, potentially someone coming in with a bit of experience from wide. Dennis Hickey did it towards the tail end of his career a lot, played at first receiver off rucks for Ireland. So we don't have a clear standout option unless we were to select Carbery in the side with Johnny.
Does this worry you a little bit at all?
I think it does because the fulcrum of our game running through Johnny is something that is it was found out quite a lot in the Six Nations, and it makes us predictable. I think that Joe Schmidt and the management team would counter-argue that, look, we didn't win collisions, which slowed our ball down, which made us more predictable again, and if we were to actually go out and win the collisions and get fast ball, we cease to be so predictable because we're playing on the front foot. It's a 6 of one, half dozen of the other. To me, I'd much rather see more variation in our attack, more creativity in our attack, and less of a focus around one man or Johnny being a fulcrum and responsible for every single aspect of our play. That does concern me. It doesn't mean he can't do it, and he's done it multiple times on his day, but I just think it's very kind of responsibility heavy on him,
Because you were on with us after the Champions Cup final earlier on this year, saying that Irish rugby needs to really reconsider the whole box kicking game as well. I know it's a separate point here, but it's something that's been discussed obviously in the aftermath of the Italy game.
Yeah.
Does that give you encouragement at all that Schmidt is rethinking this in terms of being so reliant on the box kicking game?
Well, no, the thing that one of the tactics that alarmed me in the Italian game was we abandoned the box kick for the crossfield kick deep in our own territory. So, and it was clearly a policy because we did it 3 or 4 times in the first 20 minutes. Gordon Darcy spoke about it in the Irish Times article, and it didn't really make a whole lot of sense, no matter what angle you look on it. I mean, if you are prepared to give the ball away in your own 22, at best a 50-50 aerial battle to win it back 5 metres further down the field, albeit across the other side. It's just a strange tactic. I can't quite reason it in any kind of logical sense why we do it. We've replaced the box kick in the Italian game with arguably a more risky surrender of possession 5 yards further down the field on the other side with a 50-50 chance of getting the ball back.
There must be some logic behind it.
Yeah, I can't. There must be. Well, maybe there's a subtlety we're all missing. But for me, you're better off trying to either keep the ball in hand and attack from deep, because the opposition defence, there's far more space in behind them. Their fullbacks and wingers will drop deep, and if you want to give the ball away by kicking, would you not give it away 60 metres down the field and trust your defence to run up and have a clean run of things? I suppose you could counter-argue the likes of kicking to Bowden Barrett is a risk, but
or backing your own players, I suppose, that they're more than likely going to win whatever the percentage
is. Well, it's a pretty high backing to back, Keith Earls to go up against, a 6'5" international winger. Now I know Earls, he's not playing tomorrow, but a crossfield kick to Joe Cockanasinga at 6'5". It's a strong backing of our players to win that ball in the air 5 metres further down the field. So
can I take you back to something?
I'm clearly not a fan of it.
We're getting that.
Yeah. In case there was any grey area there.
Widens the doubt.
Yeah.
We might go back to the taxes board if you will, but I want to take you back to something you just mentioned there about the predictability of Ireland. It was something that Stuart Barnes spoke about when he was on with us during the week, and all too predictable was what he was talking about. He was talking about getting ring rows more involved, and Brian Driscoll talked about it as well. He was saying, from what he has heard from within the camp, phase play has got a lot more focus. And I assume there's more to that. But will you take that point up, because you're obviously in the same camp of feeling we're a little bit too predictable, and how we might, why that is, and how we might change that over the next very short period of time?
Well, yeah, I would echo Stewie Barnes. Like, we are predictable. We have been. I think the whole issue about predictability is that we go to ground early on in most of, so from a set piece, from a scrum or line out, we invariably use that platform to set up a ruck. And to me, that's called a breakdown in rugby. To me, a breakdown is not something to be celebrated. It's like if your car breaks down, I don't celebrate it. And how many times does my car break down? It doesn't
That's
mean
not
it's
the
a
Joe
functional
Schmidt
car.
outlook, though. He doesn't want to offload. He wants to keep the ball as much as possibly can, hit the ground, break down, whatever it is.
It's very safe to hit the ground and recycle possession. But it's also, that's about the height of it. It's safe and you hold on to possession. But actually, I think there's the overall trends in the game in the last year would suggest the top teams don't want to have possession all that much. They'd rather defend, and then pick you off when you're tired from running into the brick walls repeatedly. So I'd be concerned that when you hear a comment, even from Brian, saying, look, phase play has got a lot more focused, that it's slightly missing the point. It's like, I'd rather see set piece play get it more focused, that we can break the gain line and have less phase play. Like, if we reduce our phase play, we're going to be more dangerous. Not that we're going to have the same amount of phase play and we're working on making that more threatening. Actually reduce the amount of phase play. And that, to me, that's quite a philosophical shift or a fundamental change in how we play that I don't anticipate it's going to actually happen. Certainly not in the next few weeks.
Pragmatic rugby versus let's play something a bit more risky.
Yeah. Now, pragmatic rugby won us a Grand Slam, and we beat the All Blacks playing the same way at a very, very high level of execution, but it's physically very demanding and tiring. And once teams looked at us and analysed our games from 2018, which they probably would have done in 2 or 3 working days, given the level of video analysis and the amount of staff these top teams have, they were able to figure out how we play and put in a plan to stop it. Unfortunately, we just haven't done anything different. We've maintained playing that in a bid to do it better again. So that is a worry, yeah. So I don't know if that answers your question, where I say Brian is hearing that, phase play has been really well focused on to be more creative in training. I think that's a positive, but I'd actually rather see a reduction in phase play.
Is there any sense that, like, what we've seen over the last number of months is like Joe Schmidt shifting the Trojan horse up to the gate and saying, listen,
I hope so.
don't worry about that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, because obviously the major concern would be that actually we are in the shit, and that stuff we've seen is actually Ireland, and anything that's been worked on now is tweaking little bits around and just trying to get players fit, that there isn't actually something of greater significance that's coming in terms of a change of philosophy or even a tweak in the style of play, that actually we're going to try and win the World Cup the way that we beat the All Blacks and the way that we won the Grand Slam, which would seem to not be able to now cut it.
Well, if we look at the physical profile of teams, teams are evolving at an alarming rate in the last year. If you look at the Australians, how much they've improved, the South Africans under Erasmus, England under Jones and Wales, that's not to mention the All Blacks. But the one common thread I see is that they're physically huge, all of them, and they're bigger than us physically. So I would love if the Trojan horse was, we're going to take on the bigger physical teams than us by pretending we're going to be physical and match them, but actually we're going to use the ball and be creative and skillful and elusive, because I think that's what we ought to do given the profile of our team. But I'm not sure. I don't think it's a Trojan horse. I think Joe is pretty he's a strong believer in what he's doing, and he's, I'm sure he's belligerent in terms of how he wants it implemented, and he wants players to be doing it at the very best of their own level. But to me, it's very, very worrying to go into we have a giant Trojan horse and we're fooling everyone, and actually we're going to change our game plan and catch everyone off guard. I would love that. I'd happily eat my hat to be a fool. I really would. But there's nothing to me that suggests we've got a grand master plan. I think Joe's renowned for pulling out, or recycling older plays from that he might have used in 2011 and in one particular match, getting players to hold back, calling that, and the execution of it happens at the optimal time, and everyone goes back to genius mode, and like we've pulled a rabbit out of a hat. To me, I don't think that's a strong enough attacking ideology going into a World Cup to say, right, we're going to be dull, physical, maintain possession, and every once in a while we're going to recycle a move from 7 years ago that people have forgotten about.
There was a tweet off the Off the Ball account 5 days ago from Brian O'Driscoll and Ronald O'Gara last week saying, have Ireland missed a trick by not considering Simon Zebo for this World Cup? And then yesterday Simon Zebo replied to the tweet saying, does a bear ...
Yeah, it's a redundant argument. He's not going to the World Cup. It's never going to happen.
That would be one hell of a Trojan horse.
Yes.
Can I ask you a question? What point would that call have to be made?
I would have thought that, as in, like, Carney goes down, Conway's out, Carbery's out, Henshaw's out. Like, how many steps back do we go? Get his number. I would say probably about 9 more.
Right.
I just don't think it's going to happen. I think it's probably a battle of wills and a personality. For example, Joe Schmidt or his management team or his PR and media guys, I'm sure would be aware that tweet happened, and that alone, it's just not Joe Schmidt's style. He's not going to, wouldn't entertain it. So I would say he'd probably put Tyke Furlong in there before Simon Zebo at the moment.
Jeez, you could be onto something.
She's my
systems.
Well, Tyke has incredible ability.
Yeah.
He has incredible ability. Maybe not a rugby fullback, but no, it's to me there's a kind, it's kind of tinged with sadness that a guy like Zebo, probably playing the best rugby of his career, is not in the World Cup squad. But in keeping in terms of what Joe's philosophy is, I don't think he seeks out unpredictable, creative mavericks. And, Simon is exactly that.
I think it's like bringing Dermot Connolly back in for the Dubs. Let's not rule it out just yet.
Yeah, and if Schmidt could deliver it as seamlessly as Jim Gavin threw it into a press conference without a flicker of an eyebrow.
Just drop it in.
Yeah.
And the team today is fullback Simon Zebo.
Yeah.
We've just seen up on the screen there Tommy Bowe's depth chart of fullback. He was on with us on the show yesterday morning, and he has Jacob Stockdale as a second choice fullback. He says it's Stockdale's favourite position.
Interesting.
Who would be your second choice fullback?
Probably Joey Carbery, I would have to say, yeah, and maybe Jordan Larmour, third choice, and then Jacob Stockdale. I think Jacob could be a very good fullback coming into the line at pace, but for me, probably if you think back to that chip that was blocked down before he got the famous try against New Zealand, I think we do need a guy who can be pragmatic back at fullback. I'm not sure if Jacob has the game management skills yet to be a fullback. He certainly has the attacking flair, but yeah.
Is Henshaw gone from that conversation?
Not in my own little head, but I think he's gone from the international consideration for now. I actually think, well, Henshaw played vast majority of his earlier rugby at fullback. He cut his teeth at fullback. He was fullback for the Connacht team that won the Pro, was it 12 or Pro 4, whatever it was then. And I think he's very capable of fullback. And we were awful against England, and he was very much highlighted as one of the key reasons we were awful. But he's a very capable footballer, and I would say would back himself and have the confidence to play any international fullback again. He probably, I'd say, has a great desire to do it, but I don't think he's going to be given the chance.
Okay. We've had one comment in here that I do not want an answer to. Paul Connolly on Facebook asking who's the one player that we can least afford to lose from the World Squad with an injury at Twickenham tomorrow. Don't answer it because it's nothing sure, then we'll have to come back to it. So that's from Paul Connolly. We had a discussion a little earlier on, Andy, about, I don't know if you saw this, James Haskell is going to go to MMA.
I did, yes, yeah. I saw
And
it. And what?
Fair play to him, he'll be brilliant.
Jesus, I think he must be a glutton for punishment. I can't see the benefit of anyone going to, not at his age. I mean, he's an impressive physical specimen, but geez, opting to get your head kicked in, having finished a rugby career. I wonder what his wife thinks.
Yeah.
It's out of the frying pan into the fire.
Must be thrilled.
Yeah. I hope he's getting a hell of a lot of money for it.
I would assume he definitely is.
Yeah.
And plenty of attention as well.
Sure.
We were discussing earlier on about sort of who we would back to. Mine was in Irish context, so I went a bit more international. One from rugby, one from soccer, one from GA. Players, I went for Stringer.
To go into MMA?
Yeah.
Stringer's a great call, yeah. Little nugget. Yeah, little nugget. Nasty.
See him being nasty.
Can you bite? Can you bite ankles in MMA?
He took Lomu down, so
we did, Jesus, and I don't know, I've seen some social media pictures that he posts of himself.
Yeah, he's buff.
He's in pretty impressive condition.
I went for John Walters and Paul Galvin as well. Owen went for Tanu Manga. Who else did you go
Cormac
for?
Costello and Eric Cantona. Cantona, a flying kick specialist.
Yeah, interesting. Jeez, you've caught me on trying to...
I'll give a little bit of thinking time there.
Umaga on his own may not be the big man, I don't know.
David Obi O'Brien says Pádraig Maher, Roy Keane and Devon Toner. Devon Toner would not make a good MMA fighter.
Well, you couldn't get near him.
Who would you fancy in MMA? Peter Stringer versus Devon Toner?
Well, Devon Toner.
Well, I'm trying to think
fancy Stringer.
How's he going to choke him out?
Stringer's going to get him on the deck.
He's going to climb up his back, grab him, and then and choke him out.
Toner honestly wouldn't have he'd have no chance.
Well, he wouldn't be able to reach Toner if he just held him off from a distance.
Just get him on the deck and it's
scrappy.
Game over.
It's like an absurd WWE storyline, to be quite honest.
So yeah, we have plenty of more suggestions coming. Anybody top of your head? Con O'Callaghan and GA is another one.
Con O'Callaghan, I think, would be he's kind of
he's very good.
Ideal physique for it.
Yeah. Plenty more Shane Long.
Mick Lyons. Remember Mick Lyons?
Oof.
Mick the Bio Lyons. Yeah. He made me cry a lot in my early years watching Meath beating Dublin in Key, Leinster.
Any of that Meath team
Any of that Meath team actually from back in the day.
Yeah. What's going to happen tomorrow? Does it matter the result really?
No, I think we're going to lose tomorrow, which doesn't matter one iota. If we can lose respectably, within less than 10 points and have a reasonable performance and no significant injury, I would take that all day long.
Okay. Yeah. We will be talking to you much more over the next few weeks. Andy Dunne from Personal Health, Active Aging. Check it out. I'm sure if a quick Google is going to bring up the relevant website.
personalhealth.ie.
Well, there you go. I don't even need to Google it. Thanks a million for coming in.
Cheers, Adrian.
And enjoy the game tomorrow. It's 30 minutes past 9 on this Friday morning. A quick reminder for you that we kicked off our charity action for Goal yesterday afternoon. Alan Brogan was in studio with Richie. It's all to raise money as part of Goal's fundraising efforts. One single auction lot. You can see it on your screen there if you're watching it. Specially commissioned piece of art, a globe painted by the artist Mark Baker that depicts iconic moments in Dublin football. Plus, you can land yourself a couple of tickets for the Ireland football final next weekend. We've a top bid currently of €1,300, so that's where it's at. And to take part, you can just text the word goal along with your bid amount and your name to 53106. It'll cost you 30 cents. You can head to goalglobal.org for more information there on Goal's fundraising efforts. Or indeed, you can just hit us up on Twitter or Facebook, wherever it is you're watching, and we will be in touch. But the bid currently at €1,300. A couple of comments also on Big Johnny Walters, and the obvious one that we failed to mention at any point this morning, says Trevor, GA star to make a crossover into MMA has to be Kieran McGeeney.
Yeah.
What about Brendan Linsky? Do you remember that?
Oh, Brendan Linsky, yeah.
He generally was covered in blood when he played hurling matches.
Yeah.
So, I think he'd suited quite well. I mean, he's a bit old now. We're talking about him going into management, but back in the day.
He's already made the turnover though, hasn't he? The switch over. He's already trained with SBG, I think.
He's been training away for 5 or 6 or 7 years or more, I think. But anyway, that's it. We've plenty more to come. We're going to get you an update on the live sport in just a few moments. Back after these.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
I hear you some wiring needs a fixing, ma'am. The name's Buzz, on account of my work.
No chance.
Not all cowboys ride horses. All safe electric registered electrical contractors must give you a certificate of completion that shows their work meets approved standards. Find one nearby on safeelectric.ie.
Want to explore the beauty of Northern Ireland? Have your pick of locations. Explore Titanic at its heart with Maldron Hotel Belfast City. Become a true dairy girl and walk the historic city walls at the Maldron Hotel Dairy. Heading abroad? Start your trip with the Maldron Hotel Belfast International Airport, 50 meters from the main terminal entrance. With B&B rates from £99, rest assured, it's a Maldron. Book now at maldronhotels.com. Terms and conditions apply.
OTB AM.
But if you look at that Dublin team on that day, like the flip side of it is Mick Bohan had stressed during the league that he had played, I think it was something like 35 players during the league. So you can imagine how many of his stalwarts had a lot of game time, in that league campaign. And I can imagine that there's a hell of a lot of conditioning being done between then and now. As well, you look at that game, Dublin were missing Sinead Goldrick, they were missing Siobhan McGrath, Lauren McGee came on only at half time. Cork were down Darren O'Sullivan, I suppose their skipper Darren O'Sullivan, and it took a player like Nicole Owens to step up and kick to equalise, to draw, to bring it to extra time. And I suppose, look, going into Sunday's game, there's actually a question mark now about Nicole Owens and her fitness levels, given a knee injury. So, it's just shaping up so nicely because there was nothing between them that day. But on that day, I do think Cork were fitter, but I don't know where Dublin at full tilt that day.
Yeah, Breach Stack there on a pretty interesting weekend of women's football semi-finals. Neil Tracy joins us in studio now. Morning to you, Neil.
Morning, Adrian.
We were
how are you doing?
Discussing with Andy there whether Ireland and Joe Schmidt have been wheeling the Trojan horse up to the Tokyo gates by way of, listen, that old stuff that you've been watching there for the last year. Well, that wasn't really us. Here we are, and we've got like a brand new game plan. We've got loads of playmakers on the pitch. Or actually, is that us?
I'm sure there have been bits that he has kept aside in a, tucked away in a little locker underneath his desk, but I don't think he was actually holding them back in any way. There's no two ways about it. Six Nations in 3 of the games was pretty bad stuff. There's definitely improvements to be made. I wouldn't say necessarily though they were absolutely holding things back, but and I think I listened to Andy towards the end there as well. I think he was spot on. Tomorrow, if you get out of there with no injuries, even if you lose by 5 to 10 points, reasonable enough performance, but you just don't quite win, you take that all day long.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
especially with 2 more warm-up games still to come as well. just the opportunities for players to fall by the wayside is just absolutely enormous. And we've seen over the last few weeks some of the more high-profile players like Gareth Anscombe in Wales, how all of a sudden that just turns things upside down. If you get towards the end of the World Cup warm-up matches and the only real worry you have is Joey Carbery, is he going to be fit or not? I think you've had a result, to be honest.
Yeah, big time. Just before you get into what you're going to do, I just need to let everybody know that this September, the Off the Ball Roadshow in association with Cadbury are bringing Premier League legends Roy Keane and Gary Neville to the Bord Gáis Energy Theatre. It's going to be absolutely epic. The former Manchester United players joining us for a special off-air event on September the 4th. Tickets went on sale last Friday at 10 a.m. They were gone in a couple of hours. So all proceeds going to Aware, providing support and information for people who experience depression. We are going to be giving away a number of tickets for that show. We still have some, and Cadbury still have some, so that will be your last hope of getting tickets for what is going to be an absolutely epic show on September the 4th at the BGE Theatre. One comment before we get your picks, Neil. Derek Halpin on Facebook about our crossover of sports stars from their sport to MMA. Derek Halpin on Facebook says, I can't believe that no one said Lee Keegan or Diarmuid Connolly. We're just about to do it, it turns out. Go on.
You ruined me.
I've ruined your buzz.
Yeah, Lee Keegan was the one I suggested.
Right.
Just good, solid strength.
Yeah.
Looks like he's well able to wrestle people.
Cheeky, would have a few cheeky tactics as well.
Exactly,
he wouldn't be afraid to throw an old GPS at you if things weren't going his way.
Exactly, yeah.
Low centre of gravity.
Yeah, he's not the tallest in the world.
I'm suddenly starting to realise that's an important.
That was like Lee Keegan was the one that jumped out for me this morning.
But those two that were on screen there, I mean, if that was a matchup, I'd be backing Connolly all day long.
Lee Keegan and Connolly together.
Yeah, that's a fair shout.
Connolly would be a class or two above Keegan in terms of.
I don't know. I think Lee Keegan could go all the way on that.
We'd get a 80,000 at Crow Park, I think, for that.
Probably would.
I think 80,000
Would you be much short of that? Would you be much short of that?
Yeah, no, not really. I think if you got Diarmuid Connolly against Lee Keegan in a fight, like there would be people queuing outside.
You should do that for charity.
yeah, by all means, definitely do it for charity if they're up for doing it.
Do you know what? Replace the All-Ireland final next week.
Yeah.
With a kind of a white collar boxing.
It'd be more of a contest, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Two unsuspecting people, the people that you never expect to go against each other in a fight for charity that hopefully goes ahead. Like, what else do you need?
Yeah.
You know? What have you other picks?
Yeah, I had gone for Zlatan and soccer, but you got to that earlier on.
Yeah. You're just copying whatever the viewers are saying.
Look, if we want to go back in time and trace when someone mentioned it this morning on the show compared to when I emailed Joe outside with my suggestion. And the rugby one, I went a bit left field for rugby. We've kind of been talking about the hard men, you know, the guys who've been loving the physical confrontations. I've gone for a left field. I've gone for Tyg Byrne. The way he kind of gets in under those situations, you know, into the ruck. Yeah. He's very elusive. Yeah. He can wriggle out of situations.
Is poaching any good in MMA?
I'm sure it is.
It could be a new move to poach.
Do you know what would be unbelievable?
Yeah, but like his ability to get in over someone and how hard he is to move then off him.
Poach them out.
Yeah, poach them out of it. That's his signature move. And also I think as well, like there's a lot of rugby players that, you know, you mentioned Devin Toner, he has the frame, but is he nimble enough? Is he able to work around as much? Yeah, I don't think so.
Back rows are the way to go.
Tyg Byrne though. He's the crossover.
Yeah, exactly.
He's the hybrid. He's got the second row's strength, but the back row's kind of nimbleness.
Why don't we do a World Cup of non-MMA Irish sports stars in MMA?
What's that?
A World Cup, so you've like Stringer versus Toner in round one. Comes through. Good idea.
Not a bad shot, actually.
Yeah, pick all the best ones from today.
Michael Hooper is Pocock.
Michael Hooper actually is a solid shape.
You're just talking about the body shape. Also, anybody at the breakdown, really. That's the only part of rugby you need to look at. Who's good at stealing the ball or who's good at getting penalties in that situation. Yeah. They'd make great MMA fighters.
Or a good loose head prop or something like that. One of the more modern ones maybe that kind of, they aren't, you know, like your standard loose head prop, but that has the spare extra bit of timber around them. But the real kind of trim ones that are just solid muscle, the Beast, Tendon Tauria in South Africa, he would be good, like that ability to just burrow yourself in under the chest of an opponent and work your way up.
Andrew Porter would be pretty good. I know he's a bodybuilder, former bodybuilder. I know he's more of a tight head as well, but
you just wouldn't really be able to move him too much whatsoever. Like,
he'd be another man I'd Stringer to have him.
You're going all in on Stringer.
Might give him a shout afterwards and see if he's interested in a career change. Right, Neil, what have you got for us?
We'll start with hurling, Adrian, because a couple of bits of news actually on the hurling managerial front. Dublin hurling manager Matty Kenny says he isn't going to be leaving the capital for the vacancy in his native Galway. The two-time All-Ireland club winning manager with Coola had been the early favourite to fill the vacancy left by Micheál Donoghue out west, but he says he plans to remain with the Dublin senior hurlers for the remaining 2 years of his term. Elsewhere, Derek McGrath says he won't be making a return to the Waterford hurling job following Pádraig Fanning's resignation earlier this summer. McGrath had previously said he was undecided about whether or not he would put his name forward, but he now says he won't be seeking a reappointment with the Daisha.
Like, it's an interesting one. He was in with Joe a few weeks ago and he was definitely giving it consideration at that point. He was almost teasing it out on air about whether...
He was almost going through the pros and cons like out loud.
And he was in his head sort of saying, well, if I am kind of, and Joe was certainly endorsing that he wasn't 100% sure at that time, and maybe you do need to be 100% certain before you take it. But they've had a couple of very barren years, obviously, Waterford. This is the difficulty for whoever's going in now, that they'd obviously shown some level of progression under Derek McGrath up to 2018 when Munster just went totally got away from them, even more so this year. Like, it's a less appetising prospect than it was at peak McGrath, I suppose, let's say.
Yeah, you're picking a team up when they're on the floor, really, and that's a far more difficult thing to do. Maybe people saw the Waterford job to be a lot easier than it was. Maybe Derek McGrath was the thing holding this all together, and the playing group.
I think last year, the injuries they had last year might have had a lot of people thinking, you know what, they'll get all these guys back fit, and they're going to get a good league campaign together, and they've got a new manager, a nice fresh start, and all these things will come together, and it's just never really happened in the end. Like, they had the decent enough league, but once you had the bad start in the championship, it was, you're climbing uphill from there. 0 points, isn't it?
Yeah. The first game was actually as close as they came to a win against Clare, wasn't it? And then after that, it was all downhill.
All right, what else have we got?
In soccer, Irish Premier League side Linfield earned one of the best ever results last night with a 3-2 win against Qarabag in their Europa League playoff first leg. 2 goals from Shane Lavery helped the Northern Irish side to a historic win at Windsor Park, but manager David Healy says they are still going to be underdogs in Azerbaijan in the second leg next week.
This will be one almighty task next week, that's for sure. Are they going to be strong favourites? Of course they are. The level of quality that they have. So one thing we will do, and we wanted to, and the main objective coming into the game tonight, was to make sure that the tie was still somehow in the balance next week.
Celtic manager Neil Lennon praised an outstanding performance from his side as they beat AIK Stockholm 2-0 in the first leg of their Europa League playoff tie. Second half goals for James Forrest and Odson Edouard have put the Scottish champions in a commanding position to make the group stages, but the manager Neil Lennon says he's remaining cautious about getting too far ahead of themselves.
You never say that, we'll approach AIK the second leg as professionally as we always do, and make sure that we can get the job done properly, and look forward to the group stages. But we still have a very important 90 minutes ahead of us, and we can't take anything for granted.
Elsewhere, Wolves beat Torino 3-2 away from home last night, and Rangers played out a scoreless opening leg with Legia Warsaw. Here at home, second round action in the FAI Cup tonight. The clash of Derry City and Dundalk at the Brandywell is the pick of the ties. This evening it's a dress rehearsal for the EA Sports Cup final next month. Elsewhere tonight there's a Dublin derby, UCD hosting St Pat's, while Cork are on the road to face Galway United, and Bohemians welcome Longford Town to Dalymount Park, and Shamrock Rovers entertain Drogheda at Tallaght Stadium. In the Premier League, Aston Villa go for their first win back in the Premier League when they host Everton tonight. The newly promoted side have lost both of their opening matches in the Premier League, while Everton are the only side yet to concede a goal after their first 2 games. New striker for Villa and club record signing Wesley is yet to get off the mark, but manager Dean Smith says he isn't panicking about that.
He brings other people into play, and he's getting better and better, and I think a lot can be made out of nothing really. He's 2 games into a season. He's 1 goal behind Mo Salah at the moment. So, I'm not judging centre forwards this early in the season.
Rory McIlroy is just a shot off the lead heading into day 2 of the season-ending Tour Championship in Georgia. The 4-time major winner started the tournament 5 off the pace under the new handicap format, but an opening round of 66 saw him move into 4th place on 9 under, with Americans Xander Schauffele, Justin Thomas and Brooks Koepka setting the pace on -10.
It looks like he's gone into one of those, the ageing app in that photo.
Yeah, it does actually. I noticed that.
It's a bit too much sun.
Isn't he? Grey hair. Oof.
I think it's just the shine of the way the sun is hitting him right there.
It's such a tough life, I suppose, is the thing.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Exactly. Elsewhere in rugby, Australia are the latest team to show their hand nice and early ahead of the 2019 Rugby World Cup in Japan. Overnight, Michael Sheahan named their 31-man squad for the tournament in Japan. Among those included veteran flanker David Pocock and uncapped fullback Jordan Petaya. Pocock missed the 3-game rugby championship as well as the second Bledisloe test against the All Blacks. He's been out for around 6 months with a calf problem, but Michael Sheahan says he was never going to miss out on selection. The notable inclusion, as I said there, sees the uncapped Queensland Reds 19-year-old Jordan Petaya named in the squad. It's going to make him Australia's youngest ever World Cup player.
All right, good stuff, Neil. Thanks a million for that. Just a couple of quick bits of business before we leave you. Special show coming your way next Thursday. It's going to be live from 7 a.m. to midnight right across all the Off the Ball channels for the very best to build up to the All-Ireland football final. It is, of course, the weekend before the biggest weekend of the year, Eoin. What do? Do you just sort of get as much sleep as you can, mentally prepare, eat lots of pasta?
Been 4 years now since we've been in it. So
I was meant to mention, actually, did you see the banter stakes have been ramped up? The Dublin Lord Mayor Pat McAuliffe, he's written to the Mayor of Kerry, Niall Kelleher, extending an invite for he and his wife to stay at the Mansion House next weekend ahead of the match. And can we get our picture up here? Yeah, look what he's done. You can see what he's done with those little spelling mistakes. He's dropped a few too many 5s in there.
Paul.
Very good.
Good banter. Top banter.
The merchant of banter. He trades on banter.
It's a nice invite. That is our lap for this morning. The podcast on the way. You can get that in the Go Loud app, wherever you get your podcasts, indeed. And you can watch the show back on YouTube. Subscribe there for all our best stuff. OTB Sports Radio live all day. And you can get that on our website at offtheball.com and on the Go Loud app as well. Live on the air and online from 7 o'clock tonight and over the weekend with Premier League action. Bournemouth against Manchester City in the early game on Sunday. Stephen Doyle there with Harry Arter in co-commentary. So well worth checking that out. Nathan and Brian Kerr are going to be in London for Spurs against Newcastle. OTB AM back 7:30 AM for on Monday morning. But from us for this morning, good morning.